Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Everyone's class change. King of Shadows. One person is a natural disaster. Chapter 31. Suddenly, then he saw the bright silver, streamlined and majestic aircraft. Hiss. Single quote. All the station personnel took a breath of cold air and made outstanding contributions to global warming. Who is this? It's such a grand occasion. No. Look at the driver. Isn't he the driver? Wait. This temperament. This hairstyle, this outfit, it can't be. Idiot, the driver. The driver is actually one of the committee members of the Hengxia Alliance, committee member Yi. What are the effects of celebrities? Just a name made most of the garrison personnel present who heard the news open their mouths, unable to conceal their shock. There was a slight buzz in the air. Someone soon came to his senses and led the night committee member to shut down the machine. An open grassland. This private aircraft named Navigator 2 fell steadily. Before the two people on the aircraft came down, they attracted the attention of everyone present. All go, Commissioner Knight can't come alone. All the people who came before are here, so Commissioner Knight can't come here alone. Have you heard? There's a big shot on board the aircraft. No, it's probably impossible to get Commissioner Knight to be the driver. That's not ruled out, but I think it's more likely that it's someone who took part in this test. Quote question mark. Quote. Can't. How much talent is that? Quote. Quote. The buzzing chatter stopped as the two men slowly got off the aircraft. Committee member Knight was dressed in black as usual, and looked cold and inaccessible. And there was another person beside him. He is wearing ordinary clothes, only the scarf tied around his neck is a little different. Other than that, at best, he is just an ordinary person with better than average looks, who might look twice in a crowd. But even if it looks like this based on appearance, no one will talk about it. After all, the person who can be invited by Commissioner Yi personally is not a big shot, but someone with amazing potential and talent. If it is the former, it cannot be offended. If it was the latter, his talent would be so terrifying that Commissioner Yi could personally invite him. No matter from any aspect, this man is eye-catching. Far away, when the officer saw the person coming, he first smiled and nodded to Commissar Knight in the distance. Commissar Knight looked at him and said hello. Immediately afterwards, as if remembering some important mission, the officer hurried to the temporary building and called to the old man. Old man, he is here. When he opened the door, he saw the old man sitting on a chair, drinking tea, looking unhurried. Well, I understand, you go and do your work first. The old man was still calm and composed, not at all like he was looking at the list just now and was distracted. But, you're not. The officer was a little confused. He always thought that the old man was extremely concerned about this matter, but now it seems that the old man is not nervous at all. Okay, this matter deserves attention. But I'm old and can't help much. Also, what's going to happen will happen. Just take it easy, kid. The old man put down the teapot gently and spoke in a calm tone. After listening to these words, the officer wanted to say something, but he hesitated to speak, and finally said, Okay, you just need to rest, I'll take my leave now. After saying this, the officer slowly closed the door without making a sound, but his face looked a little strange. He still doesn't quite understand. It was obviously such a noteworthy matter, but the old man had been shocked just now. How could he be so calm now? At the same time, as soon as they got the news about Bai Yi, the station staff rushed to tell each other, and the expressions on their faces could be described as Yan Yi. Just because of two concepts. Hide SSS level occupation. Upgrade to level 22 alone in 2 days. Even if any one thing were known to them, it would be exciting to the heavens, let alone two of them together. People are almost ruined. Have you heard? There is a transcendent level talented player. A real star of tomorrow will not fall. Where is he? You were on the night committee member's card just now. Holy crap, it's true, isn't the title of God of War a promising future? What? Appointed the next God of War? Are you planning to become the future leader of Hengxia? Is this true? Quote. The news became more and more outrageous as it spread, and after being spread a few times, it almost took a mythical direction. The reincarnation of Jingshoxing and Son of Fortune, each one is more outrageous than the last. Fortunately, this news did not reach Bai Yi's ears, otherwise even with his rationality, he would be embarrassed and twisted. In front of the copy entrance, Bai Yi looked back and found that many people were watching him. Seeing Bai Yi's gaze, committee member Yi asked curiously, "How's your confidence?" People around me who have met the Knight Commissioner a few times find it a bit unbelievable. The Knight Commissioner, who is usually very difficult to get close to and seldom speaks, would actually say such a thing today. Is this still the Knight Committee member who usually only talks about key things? Did you agree not to say anything irrelevant? And this sentence, to Bai Yi's ears, was just an ordinary condolence. Bai Yi replied casually, 100% sure. Commissioner Yi nodded and said in a calm tone, "Then I'll wait for you at the Hengxia Alliance." Good, Bai Yi responded, and then cooperated with relevant personnel to prepare to enter the dungeon. The staff member next to the recorder stood up, handed Bai Yi a large light yellow palm crystal, and said, "This is a dungeon-repelling crystal. If there is any danger, just crush it and a dungeon can be produced immediately. Of course, doing so would be punishable by failing the test. Next, I will release a vision synchronization skill to ensure your performance in the dungeon." After Bai Yi nodded in acquiescence, the staff member showed off his skills. Skill, Golem Vision, activates. Next to Bai Yi, a vague clown doll appeared, floating in the air, seemingly unable to be attacked. It was a special individual. No matter what, safety comes first. Please remember that you are the elite of the Dragon Kingdom, so you must ensure your own safety. Finally, after saying this, the staff watched and said nothing. Immediately, Bai Yi stepped into the vortex of the copy and entered the copy. In a room, virtual monitors connect the effects of staff skills. Looking at Bai Yi's perspective, relevant information is displayed on the side screen. Bai Yi, level 22, hidden SSS level occupation, King of Shadows. In front of this group of examiners, you can grasp some general information. Several examiners were silent for a long time, and finally made their voices heard. It's been a long time since I met such a talented professional. Yes, this profession is probably the kind of extremely rare, unique, profession that will only give birth to one person in history, right? If I remember correctly, my last unique profession was in. Last time, about that, I can't remember exactly, maybe more than 10 years ago. How strong do you think this unique profession is? It should be able to show good combat power, at least it won't be bad. That's right, otherwise it would be impossible to reach level 22 alone in 2 days. It's just that I'm still curious about the attack methods of this profession. Long range, magic, melee. As far as I can see, personal power has never reached this level. Maybe what? Maybe it's an attack method of calling on others' power and attacking in groups. Quote. In a few words, a few people judged a vague boundary for Bai Yi, a profession that has never been exposed to the public eye. At the same time, within the copy, this newly created copy has not yet been officially named, and there is no detailed information. This also made Bai Yi not know any news when he first stepped here. The location here is relatively open, somewhat similar to the feeling of a forest trail, surrounded by land and trees, with mountains in the distance. It is not as vast as the Iron Jungle, which is full of trees, nor is it as desolate and vast as the Yudong Stone Ridge. It's more like a middle ground between the two. Although I don't know the general situation in the dungeon, when I saw the first monster, Bai Yi can roughly understand the situation in the entire dungeon. After all, whether it is the Iron Jungle or the Yudong Stone Ridge, he is so aware of everything. I saw the iron-eating rat, the limb-clad wolf, and most of the subsequent monsters. After seeing the blue core stone monster, the subsequent monsters are basically related to the stone monster. Then, Bai Yi looked at the monster in the distance and directly threw a probe. Monster. Jackal. Level 20. HP. 27,880. 27,880. Comprehensive attack power. 975. Skills. Tear. Call companions. Seeing the follow-up skill calling his companions, Bai Yi did not kill them immediately. Level 20 nulls are just enough for Bai Yi's current experience acquisition standards. If the opponent is level 19, Bai Yi will kill him decisively without leaving any chance. Shadow. Bai Yi shouted softly, and then the shadow under him instantly lifted off the ground and turned into a physical entity, holding an ancient king thorn he bought before. Play with him. As soon as the words fell, the shadow carried out this instruction. Next moment, at a speed exceeding this level, the shadow arrived in front of the jackal almost instantly. PFF'd. Single quote. Aha. Single quote. The ancient king's short thorn stabbed into the shoulder of the wolf man, but did not hit the flesh and blood between the bones. Instead, it was off by 1 point and stuck in the bone. But the powerful power carried by the shadow directly penetrated the bones of the jackal. Jackal. Good news. No attacks at weak points. Bad news. A solid bone has been punctured. Jackal HP 5160. Before the Gnawl could react, Shadow immediately squatted down, waved the ancient kingthorn in his hand, and stabbed the Gnawl in the kneecap. Jackal HP 5160. Now, in less than 2 blinks, the jackal lost much mobility. If Bai Yi wanted to, if the shadow came 2 more times, the jackal would immediately hate the northwest. Assessment room. Several examiners inevitably showed unusual expressions, either excited, shocked, or somewhat inexplicable. Is this a summoning of shadows? Although level 20 is the threshold, how can it be possible to exert such combat power just at level 22? Perhaps it's the intensity that comes with the profession itself. No matter how good the board of a profession is, it can at most have several times more health like a tank, and 1 more chance of critical hits like an assassin. So, how can it be possible to explode such an attack power? I'm afraid even an excellent professional at level 30 or higher can't do it, right? You may have made a mistake. What? This was not done by himself, but by the shadow, so this is a summoned object damage. Hiss. That's right, I almost forgot, many skills can increase the power of summoned objects. But the damage value is still 2. Okay, let's continue watching. Quote. The jackal who was severely injured immediately fell to the ground and began to activate his skills almost instinctively. Oh woo. Single quote. A howl like a wolf or a dog sounded, which was one of the skills to call out to companions. Although the expressiveness is like a normal howl, the effect is real. Within a few miles, all the jackals who heard the cry immediately rushed in this direction without stopping for a moment. Bai Yi just looked at it. The injured jackal temporarily lost its ability to fight and could only keep wailing like a big trumpet. Not long after seeing 3 or 2 jackals running in the distance, Bai Yi decisively let the shadow end the life of the jackal. Specialized skill, shadow extraction follows. Before the jackals in the distance arrived. Under the body of the jackal here, the shadow began to twist and squirm, breaking away from the ground and transforming into an entity. Gnawls, built from shadow, appear for the first time. Monster. Shadow Gnawl. Level 20. HP. 41,820, 41,820. Comprehensive attack power. 1462. Status. Special amplification buff King's Domain. Skills. Tear, call companions. Go. Bai Yi stretched out his hand and gave the order. Next moment, the jackal rushed at the usual faster speed, heading straight towards the 2 jackals. Jackals are not very intelligent. I just thought that for some reason, all the hair on this companion's body had turned black. But what they don't know is, what they thought were companions turned out to be enemies who wanted to kill them. Aha. Single quote. The 2 parties ran towards each other. Those jackals wanted to pause and ask about the situation. But I never thought about it. The shadow jackal's speed did not slow down, and he directly stretched out his claws to grab the head of a jackal, and dragged it up with surging speed. His. Single quote. His. Single quote. After the shadow Gnawl knocked the Gnawl down, he directly started to launch a fierce attack. The 2 claws flew up, as if a flash of silver light flashed. HP 1462. HP 1630. HP 1694. HP 1430. In almost a moment, the shadow jackal tore the jackal beneath him into pieces. Just when the remaining 2 jackals had just understood what was happening. Then he saw it. The shadow jackal stood up. In an instant, he pounced on another jackal. Just as he was about to fight, the shadow jackal suddenly pounced on it. Both claws are raised, and the shadow Gnawl's skill, Tear, is activated. Aha. Single quote. HP 3327. The jackal's eye was torn open in an instant, and wounds, blood, and pain filled its face, making it unable to cope for a moment. But shadow gnolls are different. It throws away all emotions, and the body is at its strongest and most powerful at all times. With this shadow body, let alone injured eyes, you can still fight even if your head is blown off. The other gnoll reacted and extended its claws to attack the shadow gnoll. Aha! Single quote. One claw was raised high and fell heavily. HP 940. The shadow gnoll didn't even show any damage to the shadow, it was almost as if he wasn't injured at all. Seeing that the shadow gnoll didn't respond, the gnoll's ferocity was aroused and he began to attack the shadow gnoll desperately. HP 940. HP 956. HP 960. But even if it attacked frantically, the shadow gnoll didn't move at all, as if the attack didn't hit it. Continuously attacking the jackal, who was distracted and unable to attack for the time being. Finally, the gnoll also fell down, and the shadow gnoll stood up and directly blocked the incoming attacks. Jackal. Next moment, the tear was activated, and the jackal swung out its claws, directly cutting a medium-deep wound on the jackal's chest. HP 3327. HP 3327. He felt the tearing pain in his chest, and then saw the body of his companion next to him. The fear of the jackal filled his brain, and he ran away immediately, almost instinctively, without thinking much. While running away, he was still howling for help. But even in a head-on battle, it would not be a match for the shadow gnoll, let alone with its back to the shadow gnoll. Violently, the shadow gnolls pursued it at a faster speed, and then attacked and killed it ferociously. The ending can be imagined. But in front of Bai Yi, this is what it looks like. 12,950. Kill the monster jackal, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster jackal, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster jackal, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Drop to be picked up, gnoll's claw tip x18. Bai Yi was quite satisfied when he saw the nearly 10,000 experience points gained from each one. Killing a level 20 jackal should have given you 13,000 experience points, but due to the experience reduction mechanism after level 20, the experience has become less. But this is not enough for Bai Yi to care. After all, killing one jackal is killing 100 or 1,000 is killing, and you will still level up. What's more, it won't take long for him to kill more gnolls and even add some shadow minions. Assessment room. A figure quietly appeared in the room. A strong body is the time of greatest strength in middle age. When all the examiners saw this person, they all started to be somewhat respectful. Lord Yan, why are you here? Forgive us for being so far away. Mr. Yan, as they called him, glanced at him and said, "You, don't be so docile all the time. I can't get used to it. I heard from Xiaoyi that there is an exceptionally good child here. Come and have a look. You guys are busy first. If anyone has time, just talk to me." Yan Jing, 41 years old, SS-level professional ancient martial artist, is also one of the 36 committee members of the Hengxia Alliance. After hearing what Yan Jing said, several examiners in front continued to observe, and one person close to him told Yan Jing, "This boy's future is limitless. You don't know something, but he can actually control shadows." Hearing this, Yan Jing's curiosity was aroused, and he raised his eyebrows. "Drive the shadow?" "That's right. Look, he just used his shadow to kill a jackal. Then, he used the shadow of the dead wolf man to kill 3 wolf men in a row." Listen. Yan Jing's eyes brightened a little, then he thought of something and turned around and said, "The shadow is stronger than its body. Can it even fight 3 against 1? Such a terrifying mechanism, there should be some restrictions, right?" Thinking about it, the examiner also analyzed. "Yes, we estimate that we can control 2 shadows at the same time, which is his limit. However, even if you can only control 2 shadows, his fierce and agile appearance of constantly driving shadows is enough to make him invincible." After finishing speaking, Yan Jing nodded and said, "Indeed, the future is indeed limitless." After saying that, Yan Jing found a seat and sat down to watch Bai Yi's performance with the assessors. At the same time, within the copy, Bai Yi collected the materials dropped by the Null and then used the skill, Shadow Extraction. Immediately afterwards, 3 shadow Nulls appeared. Bai Yi also thought about throwing out the 200 shadow stone monsters and sweeping across the dungeon. But after thinking about it, I didn't do it. This place is no different than Yudong Stone Ridge. The terrain is open and the tall stone monsters can move around at will. But here, although the trees are not very tall, they are quite numerous. Not to mention releasing the 6 or 7 meter shadow giants, just getting out the shadow stone monsters is not easy. Let's not talk about the speed of action. Kicking down several trees with one step, and then knocking down several trees with one step, the noise makes me a little upset just thinking about it. So far, Bai Yi thought that it would be fun to expand the size of the shadow army step by step just by relying on natal shadow. There is quite a feeling of developing a business. However, the price is that the monsters in this copy will suffer. Far away, about 10 Nulls came running again, holding different weapons, such as harpoons or stone axes. It seemed that he was suddenly called over while hunting in the wild. When you are so far away that you can see clearly. Bai Yi used probing from a long distance away. Monster. Null holding a harpoon. Level 20. HP. 27,880, 27,880. Comprehensive attack power, 1010. Skills, throwing, tearing, calling companions. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Monster, heroic Null, level 21. HP, 31,220, 31,220. Comprehensive attack power, 1130. Skills, attack, tear, call companions. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Monster. Null holding a stone axe. Level 21. HP. 27,880, 27,880. Comprehensive attack power, 1040. Skills, attack, tear, call companions. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. The statistics of this group are clear at a glance. Some of the Nulls with prefixes are slightly higher than level 1 or level 2. This is also in line with Bai Yi's requirements. The experience points will be reduced less, and the experience points gained will be more. It can be said that these different jackals are simply unique. But unfortunately, they will eventually turn into experience points. Kill. Bai Yi waved his hand and gave the instruction straightforwardly. Followed closely. It was Natal Shadow and the 4 Shadow Nulls who attacked directly, rushing towards the group of Nulls at an even more fierce and terrifying speed. The ending is predictable. I already got the super buff bonus from King's Realm plus a powerful teammate like Natal Shadow. Just relying on these 10 or so jackals, they are not qualified to take a second look. After a simple and easy battle, a prompt appeared in front of Bai Yi's eyes. Kill the monster Null holding a harpoon, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster Brave Jackal, experience plus 13181. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster Jackal, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster Null holding a stone axe, experience plus 13181. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster Jackal, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Kill monsters. Drop to be picked up, Null's Claw Tip X66. This battle is simple and without any difficulty. Bai Yi continued as usual, asking the shadows to bring the loot over and perform shadow extraction. As for these jackals now, if they only come a dozen or so at a time, it may not be enough. After all, Bai Yi's profession is different from others. Others may get weaker with more battles, but Bai Yi gets stronger with more battles. No way. Every time you kill a monster, you can get a stronger shadow. It's a bit difficult to weaken. Life is like turning on the easy mode, pushing it horizontally is over. Looking at the 11 newly appeared jackals, they all have different attributes, but they all include one skill, which is Call for companions. Thinking, Bai Yi spoke and gave the order. You guys, shout your voices and listen. Pointing at 3 shadow Nulls, Bai Yi ordered them to release their skill, call their companions. Immediately, these shadow Nulls immediately obeyed Bai Yi's order without thinking, raised their necks and began to roar. Ouch! Single quote. Ouch! Single quote. Ouch! Single quote. 3 loud howls of jackals resounded in the air. At the same time, the jackal running in the distance immediately pricked up his ears and slowly stopped walking. Carefully discern the meaning of these howls. It's calling for companions. Then, the groups of jackals in the distance seemed to have blindly guessed the seriousness of the matter, raising their necks and howling out. "Brother, don't worry, we'll be there soon. Ouch! Single quote. Ouch! Single quote." The howls of jackals could be heard in the distance, and the entire copy was filled with warnings of danger. In the forest, a new professional who entered the dungeon and was undergoing a test to join the alliance began to tremble. He has just reached level 15, although he can face a level 20 jackal alone. But, the howling of such a large number of gnolls reflects the fact that groups of gnolls are not far away. He was shocked in his heart. It's over, if it doesn't work, just give up. There are so many jackals, they can't eat me alive. Thinking about it, he immediately crushed the dungeon repulsion crystal just in case, gave up the test, and left the dungeon. Bai Yi didn't know that with one random move, he scared away a professional who was also taking the test. But he knew that a large number of jackals were about to arrive. After looking at the 15 shadow gnolls around him and his own natal shadow, Bai Yi simply made a team assignment. There were 3 in a team, with the special jackals mixed in the middle. For example, the heroic shadow gnolls are stronger than ordinary shadow gnolls, or the shadow gnolls armed with harpoons, their attacks are also slightly stronger. That's all. Including 5 teams of shadow gnolls, Natal Shadow is ready to fight alone. After thinking about the number of howls in the distance just below, Bai Yi wanted to make more preparations. It's not that he's worried that these jackals can break his shield, it's just that he doesn't want these jackals to escape. What if, during the fight, this group of jackals were disintegrated and turned into stars all over the sky and ran away? Bai Yi didn't lose a lot of experience in vain. Think about it. Bai Yi summons a host of old minions from Kingdom of Shadows. He is said to be an old subordinate, but in fact he has only been with him for more than a day. Basically, he was recruited from the previous dungeon. With a thought, along with the Kingdom of Shadows, a large number of shadow swarms emerged from it. Bang bang, single quote, bang bang, single quote. The shadow stone monsters began to squeeze together, and the sound of collisions between the stone monsters was heard all of a sudden. What troubled Bai Yi still happened. These shadow stone monsters were too big to move around in this kind of forest. You guys, find a place to ambush and disguise yourself as a stone wall. Responsible for blocking the escaping monsters. Among this group of shadows, there was a special humanoid shadow. The first batch of hoods, wearing shadow masks that obscured their faces, and holding an ancient king's shortthorn were none other than the ninja they had acquired not long ago. The ninja doesn't have much HP, but specializes in assassination. If you find the right moment, you can easily get double critical hits. Coupled with the ancient king's shortthorn that comes with its own passive, 200% critical damage, it can be said that it is invincible in pursuit and assassination. You are responsible for hunting down the escapees. You can also participate in the killing. Bai Yi issued the order in advance to prevent him from hastily issuing orders later when a large number of jackals arrived. At this time, the large number of shadow stone monsters have also been scattered around, disguised as rocks. Even though many trees were knocked down, the goal was ultimately accomplished. The camouflaged stone walls and huge rocks are hard to see or tell that they are alive unless they move. Bai Yi had no intention of releasing the Shadow Giant and Shadow Purple Core Stone monster. These targets were too big and would scare away the group of jackals from a distance. At the same time, assessment room. Several examiners looked at the scene in front of them with a little excitement, as excited as when they were children watching the riot at Heavenly Palace. Yan Jing couldn't sit still. He opened his mouth in surprise. Who is that? It doesn't seem to be who you said. What do I think? This kid can control hundreds of shadows. Listen, the examiner showed unspeakable horror. Sir, it seems, that is indeed the case. For a moment, no one said much, they were all looking at the picture intently, thinking about what would happen next. After all, it is a devastating blow to the overall situation. Or maybe the chess piece falls into the wrong position and the whole game is lost. But, this group of people looked at the hundreds of shadows being manipulated and knew one thing, that is, This kid is so terrifying. This is a battle royale dungeon, and the original intention of the assessment is the same. Survive in a group of powerful monsters, show your flexibility and save your life. But Bai Yi is better. Now, he has adopted an offensive and defensive posture. It's the rhythm of killing as much as you want. Although this was completely different from the original intention of the test to join the Federation, no examiner dared to judge this test as a failure. After all, being able to turn from fleeing into attacking is a person's ability. Although most people can only act casually, this does not mean that every professional who participates in the test must do so. Now, all the assessors focused their attention on Bai Yi. Just want to see how amazing Bai Yi can be. Within the copy. The gravel on the ground shook slightly, which was a sign of the large number of jackals coming from a distance. And for all this, Bai Yi was prepared early. It can be said. Just waiting for this moment. Look into the distance. There are dozens of jackals, not many in number, but each one is a jackal with a weapon and a prefix. It seems that this time, all the elites nearby were called over. These dozens of jackals, ranging in size, did not come together, but divided into groups and ran from all directions. Due to the urgency of being called, there was no judging of the situation. Coupled with the obstruction of the trees in the forest, this group of jackals couldn't see clearly what was happening here from a distance. They only know that many of their companions are in danger and are calling here. Then, they held weapons and rushed here immediately. Little did I know, what awaits them is not a companion waiting for rescue, but a trap to ambush them. The 5 Shadow Gnoll teams did not take the lead in attacking. Instead, they followed Bai Yi's previous orders and waited for this large number of Gnolls to step into the ambush before taking action. Kill, Bai Yi pointed casually, and his shadow men immediately took action. The 5 shadow jackals immediately attacked and killed the jackals in all directions. Although the quantity is insufficient. However, the mere fact that they are shadows is enough to make up for a lot of shortcomings. Ordinary creatures experience pain, bleeding, injuries, and emotions such as fear and fear. It is impossible for them to fully display their strength in every battle. But Shadow is different. Shadow, no emotion. Even if they are seriously injured, as long as their bodies do not dissipate and their health bars are not cleared, they can still fight. All of a sudden, the 2 camps were at war. Although there was a big difference in numbers, with the assistance of the shadows and ninjas, the winner of the situation slowly began to tilt towards the shadow side. Kill until the blood is shed. The group of jackals panicked. Their small brains finally figured out something. What is their purpose? Save your comrades. How are they doing now? Companions were being killed constantly, and no companions calling for help were seen. Looking at the gnolls made of shadows, they didn't know whether they were their companions. But, even with the poor IQ of a jackal, he can easily judge the current situation. That is, no more fighting. Looking at the blood that was gradually drying on the ground, these jackals felt inexplicable fear in their hearts. Fear then fight. Avoiding death is a common instinct of all living things. One jackal was wounded and ran away first. He first took a few steps back cautiously, then retreated behind all the jackals, and then turned his back towards the enemy and fled quickly. Bah! Single quote. A short stab came from nowhere and penetrated directly into its back. The ninja waved the ancient king's short thorn and spread the few jackal blood to the ground. This first escaped gnoll seemed to have inspired the desire of these gnolls to escape, and one after another many gnolls began to escape. But when they run away, something they didn't expect happened. Those inconspicuous stone walls and huge stones began to extend continuously, and thick stone arms formed around them, blocking the way of all the jackals. Jackals' legs are mainly used for running, and their Achilles tendons can't support them from jumping very high at all. Not to mention, the stone wall surrounding it. Before they could come to their senses, those stone arms were raised high in an instant and fell heavily. Boom! Single quote. The sound of hitting one blow after another caught these jackals off guard. But the enemy with their backs turned, this group of shadows had already prepared their attack. Attacking an unsuspecting back is the easiest time to trigger a critical strike. Attack hits key parts, triggering a critical hit, causing strong jackal HP 4820. Closing square bracket. Attack hits key parts, triggering a critical hit, causing brave jackal holding stone axe HP 3100. Closing square bracket. Attack hits key parts, triggering a super critical hit, causing Cowardly Jackal HP minus 11,400. Closing square bracket. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Suddenly, red critical hit and orange excess critical hit prompts flashed out again and again. In a head-to-head fight, these gnolls are no match. Not to mention, the jackals were like this now, without any defense and in a cowardly state. Starting immediately, one after another, the gnolls fell heavily, and this army of shadows was like a man harvesting wheat during the autumn harvest season, picking up lives one after another with swords in hand. Kill the monster, Strong Jackal, experience plus 16932. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, Brave Jackal, experience plus 13181. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, Cowardly Gnoll, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, Gnoll holding a stone axe, experience plus 13181. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, the heroic jackal holding a stone axe, experience plus 16932. Closing square bracket. Kill monsters. Dropping item, to be picked up, the tip of the jackal's claw. The prompts sounded one after another, which was almost dizzying. Not long after, the gnolls in this area were completely cleared. But what people didn't expect was, the last heroic and strong jackal saw that he couldn't escape, raised his neck, and howled directly. The general meaning of this is, don't answer, don't answer, don't answer. But, before it could finish howling for the fourth time, its back was torn apart by sharp claws, and the ancient king stabbed directly between his eyebrows with a short thorn, killing him in an instant. And the meaning of its howling was naturally understood by the shadow gnolls, who were also half gnolls. Although most of the shadows cannot speak, their meanings are conveyed to Bai Yi silently as if they can communicate with each other. Here it is. Bai Yi knew this. When you are about to die, do you want to warn the other gnolls? He raised his eyebrows. This matter was indeed not easy to solve. Suspicion will always exist. Even if Bai Yi were here and asked the shadow gnolls to call their companions again, I'm afraid it wouldn't attract a large number of gnolls here. After thinking about it carefully, Bai Yi finally came up with a solution in his mind. But, before that, the key thing to do is to use the professional skill, shadow extraction, on the dozens of jackal corpses around. A big wave of his hand. All the shadows began to work in an orderly manner, and the tacit understanding of the coordinated work was simply better than that of workers who had been working together for more than 10 years. Not long after, all the jackal corpses and materials were moved together. Bai Yi first collected the materials and placed them in the storage backpack of the professional system. Then, it was against this large number of jackals that he used his most commonly used professional skill, shadow extraction. Stand up. Next moment, a scene that made people feel scalp numb appeared. The stacked corpses started to squirm. Take a closer look. You will find that it is not a corpse squirming at all, but the black shadow below, slowly starting to float in the air. All the gnoll corpses were piled together, and their shadows were also piled together. The shadow that appeared as a pool began to twist, and dots of black shadow appeared from it, appearing in front of the eyes. Just a few blinks of an eye. The shadows on the ground continued to condense in midair, and turned into reality in an instant. The clusters of shadows emerged from the mire-like shadows, forming a rough shape of a jackal. Only, the fierceness in his eyes was even more fierce than his own body, and black shadows drifted from his side, making him look full of demonic aura. Almost at the same time, these 31 shadow jackals appeared at the same time. Subsequently, some began to stand in line, and some began to pick up the weapons lined up nearby. Finally, these 31 shadow jackals were successfully organized into the shadow army. Looking at this group of shadow jackals, Bai Yi's combat power is undoubtedly stronger. But what is needed now is to hunt more gnolls in order to obtain the maximum amount of experience. Bai Yi still remembers it. He is currently undergoing a test to join the Hengxia Alliance, the largest and most powerful alliance in the Dragon Kingdom. Think about it. This test is to see how well you can hunt monsters, right? After all, they are the elites selected by the whole country. If they can't kill monsters across several levels or more than 10 levels, they are still considered elites. Throw those elite professionals here and take part in the test to join the league. It's not like they just need to protect themselves and survive, right? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Thinking about it, Bai Yi was determined to show his full power. Hiding something has never been his style. However, this place is no longer suitable for hunting those jackals. After all, before that, the jackal had clearly issued a warning of, "Don't answer." Regardless of whether those jackals believed it or not, they would plant a seed of suspicion in their hearts. Even if he calls his companions over again, I'm afraid it will have little effect. For example, your roommate jokingly said that he is gay one day. No matter how much you don't believe it, no matter how straightforward your roommate is, you will still feel that he is really gay. There is no other way, let's fish somewhere else. Bai Yi shook his head, and then ordered the shadows to return to the kingdom of shadows. Immediately afterwards, the shadow clings to Bai Yi's body, leaving only a shadow-limbed wolf as his mount. Choosing a direction at random, Bai Yi drove the shadow-limbed wolf and ran forward. With the blessing of the king's domain buff, the speed was not slow. Assessment room. Seeing this scene, everyone was silent for a moment. Why did you leave this place? Yes, wouldn't it be better to stay here and harvest the jackals in waves? No, if you pay close attention to the last jackal, you will find that it is telling the news. What? Then this kid is so far away, how do you know? Perhaps, the shadows under it still possess the characteristics of its original species and can understand the language of jackals. This performance really surprised all the examiners. Yan Jing looked calm on the surface, but actually felt happy inside. I thought to myself, this kid is like a treasure. It really surprises me. I thought those 2 shadows at the beginning were his limit. But I never thought that he could control hundreds of shadows. I thought it was an exaggeration to control hundreds of shadows, but the shadows under his hands can actually retain the characteristics of the original creatures. Looking at it this way, the continuous combat, explosive power, and comprehensive combat power are extremely powerful. Such talents are simply unbelievable. Excellent. It's so outstanding. His heart was extremely excited, but Yan Jing remained calm on the surface and looked at the scene in front of him quietly. Together with all the assessors, we observed Bai Yi's specific performance. At this time, Bai Yi sat sideways on the back of the shadow-limbed wolf, running at a very fast speed. Not long after, just climbed over the hills one after another and crossed the boundary just now. In the distance, a river flows slowly. The water is not very clear, but you can vaguely see a lot of fish swimming in it. Generally, places with water sources are very suitable for the development of biological populations. This is the case for the dominant creature in this instance, the gnoll. Looking into the distance, Bai Yi saw a lot of jackals, probably about 10 in total. Beside the river, there are many jackals holding harpoons, fishing. See here, Bai Yi couldn't help but feel the harmonious and beautiful scene between the jackals and nature. Then, with a backhand, he summoned an entire army of shadow jackals. Kill. Bai Yi gave the order at will, and immediately 100 shadow jackals began to attack and kill the jackals in this area crazily. Facing their fellow race members who were buffed by the king's domain and were in shadow form, these jackals were no match at all. In the blink of an eye, this battle ended quietly, and the process of this battle can only be described as devastating. Bai Yi's current performance can be said to have demonstrated the power of the group to the extreme. Saw a small colony of gnolls. It's just a dozen shadow gnolls, and 1 shadow and 1 claw when they go up, directly maximizing the damage coverage. It got to a point where the shadows took turns taking action. The most common situation is that these monsters are eliminated before some shadows can touch them. And, the more time goes by, the more so. As soon as the shadows at the front set out to fight, they immediately killed the gnolls in that area. The large group of shadows that followed behind them almost didn't even see the monsters. Time passes slowly. Bai Yi's hunting became more and more brutal, and for a while the prompts from the professional system kept ringing. Kill the monster, heroic and strong jackal, experience plus 17449. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, brave jackal, experience plus 13181. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, a strong and heroic jackal holding a stone axe, experience plus 21339. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster Null holding a harpoon, experience plus 9842. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster a strong jackal holding a stone axe, experience plus 17449. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster the heroic jackal holding a stone axe, experience plus 16932. Closing square bracket. Kill monsters. Dropping item to be picked up, the tip of the jackal's claw. The further forward Bai Yi found, the longer the prefixes of these jackals were. Other monsters become stronger by themselves. This jackal becomes stronger by stacking prefixes, right? Bai Yi raised his eyebrows, but he didn't care about this kind of thing at all. After all, the longer the prefixes of these nulls, the higher their level, and the more experience they will drop. All in all, there are only advantages and no disadvantages to Bai Yi. Not long after, the gratifying professional system prompt, upgrade prompt sounded again. Congratulations on reaching level 23. Closing square bracket. Finally upgraded again. Seeing this prompt, Bai Yi's spirit finally lifted up a bit. If not, he was always killing monsters frequently, even if he didn't do much, he was still a little tired mentally. Thinking about it, Bai Yi issued a few instructions first to ensure that his shadow army would not stop. Subsequently, just open your own panel and look at the current properties. Player, Bai Yi. Occupation, King of Shadows. Uniqueness. Level 23, 0, 73W 6680. HP, 46,502, 46,502. Basic attack power, 1735. Spirit, 230. Equipment, Walker's Dagger, Poisoned Flying Thorn, Critical Damage Kunai, Ancient King Short Thorn. Shadows Men. Natal Shadow only, Shadow Null X 65, Shadow Stone Monster X 220, Shadow Giant. Skills. Shadow Extraction, Rank 1, Kingdom of Shadows, Rank 2, Natal Shadow, Rank 2, King's Domain, full level. The attributes have improved a bit. But the most critical thing should be when you get skill upgrades. Bai Yi thought for a while and closed the panel. Previously, when he was at level 10 and level 20, he had a chance to upgrade his skills. He upgraded Kingdom of Shadows and Natal Shadow to Rank 2 respectively. This improvement cannot be said to be weak. Rank 2 of Kingdom of Shadows directly solves the biggest shortcoming of the Shadow's inability to recover blood. Natal Shadows Rank 2 directly upgrades Shadow to become the apex level combat power in the current Shadow army. It is said that level 20 is a threshold, but I wonder if the opportunity to obtain skill upgrades will also change as we enter level 20. Thinking, Bai Yi continues to command the Shadow army and marches into the distance. Inspirational should upgrade his level to at least level 25 before being forced to leave the dungeon, so as to add a significant mark to his qualifications in the Hengxia Alliance. Assessment room. All the examiners were speechless and choked. Finally, one of the examiners couldn't help it and said first. This kid, shouldn't he regard this alliance test as a test of combat strength? From a general rational point of view, it seems that this is indeed the case. It's a big departure. I think this test is unnecessary. Why don't we just let this young hero come out? As he said this, all the examiners looked at each other, and this idea appeared in each of their minds at the same time. Don't blame anyone else. It's just that Bai Yi is too outrageous. This is a good escape test. The purpose is to test whether elite professionals across the country can protect themselves and avoid risks when they exceed the limits they can face. Bai Yi is better. Once you enter the dungeon for this league test, it's like starting a legendary game. The Taoist priest and his 15 dogs were walking sideways throughout the area. One sword costs 999, and the sword explodes with fierce fire. A planned escape turned into a massacre for him. And this kid seems to think that this test for joining the Federation was originally designed this way. No, find someone to get him out. That's right, that's right. After he kills all the monsters in the dungeon, how will the next national elite be tested? Who can find the monsters? Send someone to pick him up directly. Who else agrees? I agree. Seconded. Okay, then. Before the examiner could finish speaking, Yan Jing raised his eyebrows and looked a little unhappy. He hasn't seen enough yet. This kind of exciting drama of attacking in groups and massacring the whole dungeon is simply more interesting than him forming a team to face the boss. How can it end like this? After looking at the screen, Yan Jing's eyes widened. Ahem. As far as I know, this is already the standard distance for the last explorer. So, this test should continue. Hearing this, all the assessors couldn't help but give up the idea of accepting Bai Yi's copy. They followed Yan Jing one by one, and their thinking began to become more active. Master Yan, you mean, out of this distance, we may encounter the boss. Can we still test this kid's adaptability? Well, you can't be wrong. Mr. Yan is far-sighted and has not seen much in his life. Good, very good. After all the examiners praised him, Yan Jing was embarrassed to tell the fact that he just said casually, but continued. That's right, when encountering the boss of this instance, this guy probably won't be able to push through. Quote. Seeing what Yan Jing said, all the examiners followed suit. Yes, Master Yan is really far-sighted. How can this kid still be so cool when facing the boss? It's time to test his resilience. It seems that there is still reason to continue this test. Just like what these examiners said. Beyond this distance, the chance of encountering the boss greatly increases. No matter which copy it is, there will basically be this kind of rule. That is, the farther away the area is, the greater the probability of encountering powerful, elite, and boss. Although I don't know who summed it up, and no one has verified whether all copies are like this, but everyone always believes in this rule, so that it forms a feeling of iron law. Not long after, Bai Yi saw the first elite in this copy. It was a slightly larger jackal that looked unusually anomaly. Just see, gnolls with numerous prefixes gathered together, a tall gnoll with an unusual appearance. Its head has a crustacean structure, and its eyes are composed of 8 purple-black secondary eyes. It has 4 arms, and each arm holds a weapon. Stone axe, harpoon, fire stick. Although his stature is not the tallest that Bai Yi has ever seen, he is still much taller than these jackals who are less than 1.6 meters tall. The overall body shape is about 2 meters. Just looking at the appearance, it's still a little scary. From a distance, Bai Yi felt a little hairy when he looked at it, as if he saw a crab covered with green hair. But soon, this disgusting feeling disappeared. Bai Yi looked at the anomaly jackal in the distance and threw it away with a probe. Monster. A mutated and strong wolf man, elite with a weapon on his secondary limbs. Level 25. HP 85,600. Comprehensive attack power 1375. Skills: multi-hand coordination, death without freezing, B-level, roar. Looking at this weird jackal, Bai Yi glanced at its skills, but there was nothing that made him care too much. Then, with a wave of his hand, Bai Yi ordered, "Kill." Next moment, the shadow army followed this order and rushed forward instantly. And the jackals forming a group in the distance heard this movement and looked into the distance. Good guy. The dense army of shadows was like a solar eclipse, darkening the entire earth. The black shadows floating in the air seemed to be condensed and formed, looking full of intimidation. Quote. The jackals were shocked and immediately prepared to pack up their belongings and run away. However, the elite mutant jackal at the center of them opened and closed the pair of carapace jaws in its mouth, and actually produced a language that this group of jackals could understand. Don't run away, fight, or die. A few simple words, but no jackal dared to take them as a joke. But looking at the shadow army dispatched from the nest in the distance, even if there are about 20 gnolls here, plus the elite mutant gnoll who is regarded as their leader, I can't help but feel scared. Seeing their appearance, the elite mutant jackal chose to take the lead in the battle. Its large jaws opened and closed again, speaking the language of a jackal. Look, what is ahead? Immediately afterwards, the mutated jackal took heavy steps, and the land a few meters nearby shook slightly, making it look full of momentum. Its back is reflected in the eyes of every jackal in this area. These jackals only felt that their heads were as dazzling as the bright moon, and this momentum was enough to defeat all enemies. But soon, they were slapped hard by the cruel reality. The mutant jackal stretched out its 4 thick arms, preparing to intercept this army of shadows with one hand. But I never thought. The shadow was ranked first and stabbed the mutated jackal directly in the abdomen. Elite mutated jackal HP 5555. Then the shadow circled behind him and stabbed through a shoulder blade. Elite mutant jackal HP 6666. Immediately afterwards, The dense shadows were neatly arranged and instantly surrounded the elite mutant jackal in the center. Taking the 7-star siege formation as an example, the amount of damage directly reached the maximum. Almost every shadow wolfman around can be hit. Elite mutated jackal HP 3327. HP 4089. HP 3327. HP 4089. HP 5923. A series of red values flashed across instantly, before the elite mutant jackal could attack again. Unexpected. The ancient king's broken thorn in Shadow's hand directly stabbed the gap in the carapace of the elite mutated jackal's neck. Immediately, under the double buff plus double buff of the king's domain, it showed extremely powerful power. Aha! Single quote. The head of the elite mutant jackal was instantly blown away by this huge force. Attacks key parts, triggering a super critical hit, causing mutation of the weapons held by the secondary limbs of a strong jackal elite HP 21451. Closing square bracket. Call out. Single quote. The carapace head of this elite mutated jackal flew high into the air, drawing a beautiful parabola. Along with the light, it shines in the eyes of every jackal. At this time, all the jackals couldn't help but recall the last words of this elite mutant jackal before his death. Look, what is ahead? Their minds were a little dazed, but the bodies of these jackals obeyed their instincts. That is, escape. Just kidding, how can you face this terrifying army of shadows head-on? Isn't there something wrong with your brain? They are monsters, but not stupid. Moment. The group of jackals broke into pieces and fled in all directions in an instant. But these tricks are really not enough in front of the shadow army. You run fast enough. But we have the growth of the king's domain here, which can run faster than you. In the blink of an eye, the fleeing gnolls were hunted down by the shadows, divided into small groups, and they were immediately besieged and killed. Then, a series of prompts flashed again. Kill the monster, strong and heroic jackal, experience plus 17449. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, a strong and heroic jackal holding a stone axe, experience plus 21339. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, a strong jackal holding a stone axe, experience plus 17449. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster, the heroic jackal holding a stone axe, experience plus 16932. Closing square bracket. Kill monsters. Dropping item to be picked up, the tip of the jackal's claw. But when all the shadows dispersed to chase the group of jackals, the elite mutated jackal, which had been separated from its head and body, actually began to twist. Wow! Single quote. Yeah, single quote. The carapace joints crackled loudly, and several groups of shadows around them quickly reacted and stepped forward to finish the attack. This also attracted Bai Yi's attention. Is this the B-level skill of this mutated jackal? Death without freezing. It's quite interesting. After that, Bai Yi looked at the corpse of the elite mutated jackal not far away to see what other tricks he could come up with. Although the previous shadow army had divided into dozens of teams to pursue them, they failed to return instantly. But just based on the shadows left behind, there are nearly 100 terrifying figures. These dead elite mutant jackals alone can't make any waves. Wow! Single quote. Yeah, single quote. The heads and bodies of the elite mutant jackals began to move separately. With this look alone, it would be an understatement not to participate in a horror movie. What makes Bai Yi feel reasonable is that although the body and head are dead, they can still attack. Considering its own B-level skills, everything seems reasonable. But in front of the shadow army, these are as ridiculous as children's play. Aha! Single quote. Aha! Single quote. Aha! Single quote. Almost instantly, after watching the performance of the elite mutated jackal's death, the shadow army attacked in large numbers, tearing the corpse apart without even a single shadow move. Kill the monster, mutated strong jackal elite with a weapon on its secondary limbs, experience plus 14W7370. Closing square bracket. Finally, the battle situation has been decided. Bai Yi sets his sights on the strongest enemy in this field, this elite mutant jackal. This time, the elite mutated gnoll performed very poorly on the monster side. But this does not mean that its strength will be much weaker after it becomes a shadow. Business as usual. The corpses, materials, and weapons were arranged neatly, and these shadows were almost familiar with the process. Bai Yi approached and first put away the materials. Then he looked at the elite mutant jackal that had been put together, and he couldn't help but be speechless. It looked like a jigsaw puzzle. But without thinking too much, he directly used his professional skill, shadow extraction. Next moment, the body under the elite mutated jackal began to deform, squirming and twisting towards the ground. In the blink of an eye, those black shadows have already gathered in midair. However, the image of this mutant jackal has been optimized a lot. The two large black shadow jaws are particularly obvious. The crustacean's head constructed of black shadows has become more consistent with the body, and the forearms on the body have also become particularly suitable. But the most important thing is, there are huge empty gaps directly between the parts of the body, independent of each other and suspended in the air. Like magnetic levitation light bulbs, they repel each other. And these huge suspended gaps do not make this shadow mutant jackal uglier than the original, but instead make it a bit more handsome. It's like going from a deformity to a monster with unique design aesthetics. Monster. Shadow Sublime Jackal Elite. Level 25. HP 12W8400, 12W8400. Comprehensive Attack Power 2060. Status. Special Amplification Buff King's Domain. Skills. Multi-hand collaboration, collaborative division B+ level, original dead but not frozen mutation roar. If the original elite mutant jackal was ugly, the current shadow auxiliary jackal really looks like a little leader. Also almost at the same time, the new shadow gnolls behind him were also constructed from the shadows, picked up their weapons and stood in formation. Bai Yi waved his hand casually, and these dozens of shadow jackals entered the shadow army. This battle is just a microcosm of what the entire copy has done. Within the next period of time, Bai Yi encountered about 6 more elite mutant jackals like this one. They are a mantis-like, strong gnoll elite with sharp mutations of insect-like secondary limbs. There are also spider-like, slimy mutated gnolls elite with compound eyes and secondary limbs. Boar, bat, humanoid, wild wolf type. After Bai Yi killed them all, he felt as if he was playing with Pokemon. Each of these mutant gnolls is ridiculously longer than the last, especially the humanoid gnoll, which has no hair on some parts and looks extremely weird. It is much weirder than those mutated gnolls from bats and spiders. The number of elite monsters killed this time has become the largest number killed in a single copy since Bai Yi's previous copy. There are as many as 7. Of course, this experience is pouring in large numbers, and even Bai Yi can't help but be moved. Kill monsters insect-like secondary limbs with sharp mutations and strong gnolls elite experience plus 15W4120. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster strong and heroic jackal experience plus 17449. Closing square bracket. Kill the monster the sticky mutated gnoll elite with the compound eyes secondary limb experience plus 16W6120. Closing square bracket. Kill monsters. After gaining some experience, Bai Yi was upgraded again. Congratulations on reaching level 24. Closing square bracket. Player. Bai Yi. Level 24 21W 3154 83W 6400. The distance increases one more level. What level 25 lacks in experience is just a few experienced elite mutant jackals. Thinking of this, Bai Yi cheered up his mood again. The long period of killing and fighting had already made him a little sleepy. This test is really so boring. If other professionals who participated in the test knew about it, they would probably vomit 300 cc of blood, and they would have wanted to whip Bai Yi dozens of times and drive him away from the children's table. Assessment room. This scene of Bai Yi's battle lasted for several hours, long enough to watch the perfect team being frozen and fighting Thanos. The process was mostly repetitive, and even Yan Jing, who wanted to watch for a while before, felt a little numb. I said, this is a bit too unreasonable. Hearing what Yan Jing said, the examiners who were a little depressed suddenly became energetic and started talking one after another. That's right, how can you play this? All the elite monsters in the copy will be wiped out by him. What about the adaptability you promised? This is not only horizontal pushing, but also horizontal pushing. It's a test. I think the same is true. He was in simple mode during this test. The original intention of the test was lost by being rubbed on the ground. No, Get this kid out. He must be out. That's right, if he waits for the full 8 hours of dungeon time, there won't be any monsters left. Quote. The more they quarreled, the more chaotic the entire assessment room became. Where is the usual solemnity of a superior examiner? He looks like a primary school student quarreling for face. Noisy and noisy, it seemed that all the examiners had made up their minds. But thinking that there is still a big shot here, whether it is daily life or responsibilities, after their unanimous decision, the test matter can be settled. But with this big shot here, whether you can agree or not depends on his face. Then, the eyes full of various emotions were cast on Yan Jing's face. At this time, even Yanjing felt that Bai Yi had to be taken out of the copy. If not, just like what these assessors said, if we stay here any longer, there may be no monsters in this copy. Okay, I'm with you. Yan Jing choked up mid-sentence, looking straight at the picture on the virtual monitor. See this scene. The examiners were stunned at first, and then seemed to realize something. They immediately looked away from Yan Jing's face and looked at the virtual monitor together. If you don't look at it, it's nothing. At first glance, all the examiners were shocked beyond measure. Just saw, in the screen, in front of Bai Yi, there is a huge natural cave. The height of the entrance to this natural cave is over 10 meters. This is not the end. From the entrance of the cave, about 5 or 6 mutated tall jackals appeared. And after they appear, it was as if they were surrounded by something, waiting for a certain leader to appear. Not long after, a strange monster crawled out of the cave, opened its fleshy mouth and let out a roar that echoed throughout the dungeon. The fleshy maw is the size of several adult heads. The large mouth split directly into 4 petals and spread outward like a flower. One after another, the densely packed main teeth and auxiliary teeth were exposed, which was particularly ferocious. Hiss, single quote, roar, single quote. At this time, Bai Yi was riding on the back of a spider-like shadow mutant jackal. Although it is a spider-like shadow mutant gnoll. But the carapace is quite large and flat, and it has also been converted into a black shadow structure, without the dense cilia of the spider. Therefore, this has become Bai Yi's most satisfying mount so far. Riding on his mount, Bai Yi looked at the situation not far away. You don't need to think carefully to know that those strange monsters should be the boss of this instance. Without further ado, Bai Yi made a direct probe and threw it away. Monster. The leader level Vanguard's ferocious mutated jackal that absorbs genes, BOSS level. Level 35. HP, 42W9400, 42W9400. Comprehensive attack power, 11,000. Closing square bracket. Status. Angry attack power increased by 5%. Skill, closing square bracket. Seeing this piece of probing information, Bai Yi almost couldn't hold it in anymore. This thing, can you call me a jackal? Bai Yi frowned and glanced at the BOSS level monster again in the distance. As if sensing the gaze, the tall strange monster glared fiercely in Bai Yi's direction. And these eyes, there are 8 pairs in total. Look at this strange monster again. There are goat horns of one large and one small on top of the head. The face looks like it was thrown into a frying pan and then forcibly healed, and the mouth is as terrifying as an alien. On the left and right sides of the torso are 2 hands, one side is as big as a giant's hand, and the other side is a crab-like carapace segmented limb. Looking at the legs, it looks like a giant spider. No, it has one more pair of legs than a spider, 10 pairs in total, and the trembling cilia on them are as thick as arms. Hiss, single quote, roar, single quote. Before Bai Yi could take another look, the strange monster exploded and took the lead in attacking. With a roar, 6 different mutant jackals beside him ran directly in this direction. Only, due to the slope, they only noticed the dozens of exposed shadows and did not take them seriously. But soon, their momentum suddenly faded. Just room. They headed downhill towards Bai Yi's direction, but halfway there, they discovered the dense army of shadows in the woods. Countless pairs of shadowy eyes were staring at them. Just waiting for Bai Yi's order, these 6, rare, mutant jackals will be torn to pieces alive. At this time, Bai Yi also stopped observing the strange boss. If he took one more look, he was afraid that he would explode. A big wave of his hand. Bai Yi ordered, kill. Leave no one behind. Almost instantly, after receiving the order, the Shadow Army immediately launched a counterattack. And the first to feel it. It is this group of mutated jackals who lead the way. When they first attacked, they were so full of momentum. Now, being chased by immeasurable shadows in front of them, they were in such a state of embarrassment. Ouch! Single quote. Gah! Single quote. These mutant jackals each speak a language, but miraculously they can be understood by other mutant jackals. It's over. Dead. Run. Chapter 41. At this time, the intuition of these jackals is extremely accurate. But, even with the poor brain of the jackal, he would not choose to fight head-on. Just the mutated gnolls similar to them overwhelmed them in number, not to mention the other densely packed shadows. At this time, the dust on the ground stirred up, and the mutated jackals trampled the sand as they ran away quickly. As if he saw this cowardly behavior from a distance, the strange monster's face was filled with anger. Although there is no human expression at all. But people can still feel the anger. Hiss. Single quote. Ang ho. Single quote. The strange monster opened its petal-like mouth, stretched its neck and roared. Hearing this voice, there were two mutated gnolls. Their fear of strange monsters actually exceeded their fear of facing the Shadow Army. I saw these two mutated jackals trembling, slowly stopping, turning around and facing the army of shadows. The remaining four are still running. But it was no use. Bah! Single quote. A sticky white thread shot out from the navel of a spider-like shadow mutant jackal. This thread spread in midair and just stuck to the four escaping mutated jackals. It lasted almost a few breaths. The Shadow Army behind him has arrived. Aha! Single quote. His. Single quote. Whether it was a normal attack or a small skill, it was all unleashed on this group of mutant jackals. A large-scale group fight was staged here again. From Bai Yi's perspective, damage reminders flashed across almost the entire scene. HP 4089. HP 4089. HP 5923. HP 3327. Although every mutated jackal can be regarded as a mini-boss, they still cannot withstand the attack of the Shadow Army. In just a few blinks of being attacked, their health bars were low. For a moment, whether he is weak or on the verge of death, all negative buffs are added to him. Death is just another moment. Although there are a few mutated gnolls with the difficult B-level skill of death without stiffness. But that's just for other people. For the current Shadow Army, it is just a matter of adding a few more blows to the surrounding shadows. This confrontation started quickly and ended quickly. A number of prompts flashed in front of Bai Yi's eyes, all of which were kill prompts. After counting the number, none of them were missing. Kill the monster, the sticky mutated gnoll elite with the compound eyes secondary limb, experience plus 16W6120. Closing square bracket. Kill monsters insect-like secondary limbs with sharp mutations and strong gnolls elite, experience plus 15W4120. Closing square bracket. Kill monsters mutated strong gnolls elite with weapons on their secondary limbs, experience. Closing square bracket. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. At this time, Bai Yi observed the strange monster in the distance, and seeing that it didn't move, he drove his mount towards the corpse. Stand up. In an instant, Bai Yi's professional skills were skillfully displayed. Black shadows swayed, and the mutated jackals who had just died began to move, and the shadows under their bodies began to become restless. Time passes in an instant. New shadow minions appear and stand on the land. It was the mutant jackals that were killed just now. Far away, the strange monster saw this scene from a distance, and the whole monster began to make big moves. Ang ho. Single quote. A sound like a tearing throat resounded throughout this copy world. Just looking at this monster, it seems that it is different from the previous one. After thinking twice, Bai Yi threw the probe away. He always had a feeling in his heart that this monster seemed to have activated some skill. Monster. The leader-level Vanguard's ferocious mutated jackal that absorbs genes, BOSS level. Level 35. HP 41W 2333, 42W 9400. Comprehensive attack power 12,200. Closing square bracket. Status. Furious attack power increased by 15%, agility increased by 5%. Skill. B+ level, mutant rage. Closing square bracket. Sure enough, it was as expected by Bai Yi. Whether it was passive or active, this strange monster used a B-level skill called Mutational Rage. Attack and agility have been improved a bit. But, in Bai Yi's opinion, these are just its struggles before death. Paying attention to the time spent in the copy, Bai Yi gave instructions to the shadow, and then waved his hand, letting the shadow army attack the strange monster. Although he didn't bring anything like a watch, just based on his feeling, it was almost time to force quit the dungeon. And the reason why he ordered Shadow. With a little consideration, this action cut off the monster's retreat. Shadow moves quietly. At this time, the Shadow army marched neatly towards the strange monster, who was also the boss of this instance. The strange monster seemed to feel the killing intent, and its fighting spirit suddenly became high. Roar. Single quote. Before the Shadow army could rush in front of it, it rushed over with commendable courage. Bai Yi couldn't help but smile. Who? Instead of running away, did you come here instead? I really don't know where the courage comes from. Bai Yi has never taken this dungeon boss seriously. No matter how high your blood volume is. Can it be as high as the total of hundreds of shadows? No matter how strong your attack is. Can these shadows be destroyed directly? Based on this alone, Bai Yi knew that there was no reason to lose in this battle. In the blink of an eye, the dungeon boss, the strange monster, rushed to the front of the shadow situation. The shadow army also arranged a battle array. Aha! Single quote. The shadows lined up at once. First, 60 shadow gnolls surrounded the strange monsters. Those who are, it is the 13 mutated versions of the shadow gnolls, mixed in among them. The shadow gnolls can resist a large amount of damage and at the same time deal decent damage to strange monsters. The most important thing is, the ninja holds the ancient king's short thorn and attacks the weak points of strange monsters from time to time, launching special attacks such as critical hits and super critical hits. HP 4089, HP 4089, HP 5923, HP 3327. Attacks attack key parts, triggering super critical hits, causing leader-level vanguards ferocious mutated jackals who absorb genes Bo SS level HP 19198. Closing square bracket. These frequent attacks should have once again aroused the anger of the strange monster. But as the saying goes, things must be reversed when they reach their extremes. Under the extreme anger, this strange monster actually made an extremely rational judgment. That is, run away. Seeing this scene, the corners of Bai Yi's mouth raised slightly. All he could say was that it did not go beyond his expectations. Under such a huge attack, the strange monster with a loss of health chose to escape as expected. This is normal. Even if you know you can't beat him, if you continue to fight hard, the only outcome will be death. Not everyone can shovel a tiger when they are extremely angry. In most cases, they just give the tiger extra food. Boom. Single quote. The ground was shaking slightly, it was the violent noise caused by the strange monster escaping. Chase. Bai Yi seemed unhurried and gave casual instructions not far away. The moment the order was given, these shadows chased directly forward. Boom. Single quote. The ground suddenly trembled a little more violently. Strange monsters are running in front, and the shadow army is chasing and attacking from behind. This scene is a little bit joyful. Not long after, the strange monster saw the cave in the distance. If it were to express its thoughts, it would definitely be, as long as we can get there. This is my escape route. Such as, this is indeed the case. If anyone is most familiar with the terrain inside the cave, it must be the strange monsters living here. Under the intricate and huge terrain of the underground cave, Bai Yi could not lay siege to the strange monster again no matter how many shadow armies he had. Although the place where strange monsters can pass is not that small. But after all, the deeper you go, the narrower the terrain on both sides becomes, and the number of shadows that can pass through at the same time will decrease. But just 2 steps further, the strange monster was obviously stunned. The entire tall figure of the strange monster froze on the spot. Only because, in front, directly under the cave, there is a human-shaped shadow, which is exactly similar to Bai Yi. Out of anger, the strange monster almost instinctively wanted to slap it to death with one claw. But, just as the giant hand on the side of its abdomen was raised, it was suddenly pinched tightly by an even bigger hand. Take another closer look. I don't know when it started. 1. No, two huge creatures were already hiding in the shadows of the cave. It is the shadow giant and the smaller shadow purple core stone monster. If there is a beam of light shining into it, it must not be difficult to see that behind the entrance of the cave and under the cave are densely packed with shadow stone monsters. The outline of each individual is similar to that of a stone monster, and each one is filled with a reassuring sense of power. Violently, the strength in the shadow giant's hand increased a little more, and the darkness in his eyes seemed to be able to absorb all the light. A sentence appeared quietly in the mind of the strange monster for some reason. This place is already full. Boom. Single quote. The shadow giant's huge fist appeared and hit the strange monster's face directly. Although they have similar heights. But the shadow giant is obviously a weight higher than this strange monster. One is a thin, insect-like carapace body, and the other is a shadow body mutated from the original rock body. Totally incomparable. When this fist fell, the head of the strange monster shook directly, and the damage was obviously considerable. At this moment, Bai Yi, who was not far away, saw it and a prompt floated out. It's the orange excess critical hit prompt. Your shadow minion, shadow giant, attacks key parts, causing a super critical hit, causing the leader level Vanguard's gene absorbing ferocious mutated jackal, Bo SS level HP 78973. Closing square bracket. Nearly 70,000 damage. It's literally half the HP of a strange monster. Buzz. At this time, the strange monster only felt that the sky was dark and the earth was dark, and his whole body seemed to be out of control. But even if anyone slacks off, the shadows will only remain at their best. Take advantage of this short time. Whether it was the shadows outside the cave or inside the cave, they all moved out of their nests, giving the strange monsters a small shock once again. HP 4089. HP 3947. HP 12938. HP 5923. HP 3327. HP. Layers of damage burst out in turn, and even a strange monster with hundreds of thousands of health cannot sustain it for long. The most deadly thing is, this group of shadows cooperated extremely well. While attacking, they stacked one on top of the other and built a ladder. What's more, it is directly attached to the arms of the shadow giants and attacks on the heads of the shadow stone monsters. This also makes the range where strange monsters can be attacked several times larger. All of a sudden, the crazy surge of numbers is like a blowout, out of control. It was also at this dying moment. This strange monster actually used all the abilities it could use. Bang. Single quote. Stomping his feet violently, the surrounding shadows briefly stopped for 3 seconds, and the blood volume of this strange monster was slowly recovering. But after 3 seconds, the recovered blood volume is far from the lost blood volume. Roar. Single quote. The carapace on the strange monster trembled violently, and the entire body changed, like a 1,000-page tofu that had just been cooked, shrinking continuously. But before it could shrink much, the huge amount of damage caused the strange monster to feel the pain and stopped this overly passive skill. He violently swung his arms, frantically repelling the shadows around him. After some shadows attacked repeatedly, they finally couldn't withstand it, and dozens of shadows began to disappear. Your shadow subordinate, shadow blue core stone monster, is dead. Your shadow subordinate, shadow null, is dead. Your shadow subordinate, shadow null, is dead. But this is all pointless resistance. No matter how he attacks, no matter how much of the shadow's health can be cleared with one attack, his body dissipates. There will be endless shadows, filling in again like a swarm. These strange monsters killed were like inaction and insignificant resistance, only delaying death. HP 29W 2333, 42W 9400. HP 23W 2333. HP 18W 2333. HP 9W 2333. Monster boss level. Jackal Bo SS level. Blood volume is lower than 30% and enters weak state. Weakness. Physical fitness can only exert less than 50%. Monster boss level. Jackal Bo SS level. Blood volume is less than 5% and enters near death state. Near death. Physical fitness can only exert less than 10%. Kill the monster. The leader level vanguard's ferocious mutated jackal that absorbs genes. BOSS level experience plus 302 W8800. Closing square bracket. Congratulations on reaching level 25. Closing square bracket. Congratulations on reaching level 26. Closing square bracket. Congratulations on reaching level 27. Closing square bracket. Boom. Single quote. The slightly shrunken strange monster fell directly to the ground. It even covered a lot of shadows. But fortunately, it was just a heavy object falling, and no other damage was caused. The shadow was only pressed under the body, and it was not a serious problem. Bai Yi walked forward, and a line of prompts appeared. Dropping items to be picked up. Jackal Leader's Heart X2, Mutated Limbs X4. Bai Yi looked a little dazzled when he saw these items, but he still put them away. Slightly more precious items like these may occupy a separate compartment in the storage backpack. But these are not things Bai Yi needs to worry about. After all, before entering the test, he had almost emptied his storage backpack, and now it was more than enough to hold some materials and items. Thinking about the approaching copy time, Bai Yi sped up his movements. Without any ambiguity, Bai Yi decisively launched his professional skill, Shadow Extraction. Stand up. Next moment. Aha. Single quote. Just like when the Stone Ridge Giant was extracted, the shadow instantly spread into a pool shape under the strange monster's corpse. Amidst the ripples, the black shadow gradually floated into the air. Unexpected. 4 huge wolf-like hands appeared, showing a pitch-black shape made of black shadows, with each black shadow walking upside down. These 4 palms violently grasped the surrounding land and struggled upward. Boom. Single quote. The first thing to escape from the shadow pool was a pair of black curved horns. Immediately afterwards, there was the smooth mask-like face below, with no facial features reflected. Immediately, the whole body was lifted violently. It led the dark pool of shadows beneath him to transform into the final body. On the left and right sides of the torso are 2 pairs of huge wolf-like heads. Under the body is a more suitable carapace support. The 8 pairs of carapace auxiliary limbs are stably balanced on the ground, making it appear neater and sharper. This new group of shadow men has obviously undergone considerable improvements compared to the strange monster. It won't be negative. Instead, it has truly become sharper, as if it has been streamlined and strengthened. Bai Yi thought that maybe after the elite and BOSS level monsters undergo shadow extraction, these new shadow minions will change a bit. Perhaps it is the function of the new professional skill, King's Domain. Or perhaps, this is the will that arises from the new shadow's subordinates when they are born. No matter what, Bai Yi himself feels that he is quite satisfied with these changes. He glanced up to detect the subconscious activation. Just one glance made Bai Yi almost feel pain in his neck from the long name, so he simply rewritten it. As for the new name, Bai Yi is not easy to come up with. The names he had chosen before were all based on his first impression. But how come this shadow in front of me is called a strange shadow monster? No, it's just awful. Think about it. Bai Yi remembered a novel he had read before transmigrating, in which a character was also the leader of the jackals. It's just that this name seems much more normal. Thinking about it, Bai Yi just copied it. Finally, after another inspection, a new shadow appeared in front of him, and its data appeared. Monster. Black Bolton. Level 35. HP. 63W1000, 63W1000. Comprehensive Attack Power. 18300, 46700. Status. Special Amplification Buff King's Domain. Skills. B+ level, Mutant Rage A level, Return to Light B level, Shrinking Change Trample, Call Companions, Smash. Bai Yi took a look and found that Black Barton had a lot of skills. 1 A level skill. There are as many as 2 B level skills. As for the small skills such as Instinct, there are more than 20 of them, which makes people feel dizzy. After looking at it, Bai Yi waved his hand. Gone. Next moment, all the shadow men's movements appeared to be uniform. All their action directions have changed to the position of Natal Shadow, and around Natal Shadow, the black shadows one after another have not entered it. From the side, it looks like those shadow men have merged with Natal Shadow. Actually, but it is these shadow men who use Natal Shadow as their anchor point to enter the Kingdom of Shadows. After selecting some of the best, all the shadow men stopped. No way. Today's Kingdom of Shadows can only accommodate 270 shadow men, and cannot accommodate more. He waved his hand. Natal shadow came to Bai Yi. It once again turned into an ordinary shadow under Bai Yi that everyone can see. As for the extra shadow stone monsters and shadow jackals in front of him, Bai Yi expressed some helplessness. No way. We can only put this large amount of combat power in this copy. After all, the capacity of Kingdom of Shadows is still limited. I'm not afraid that new professionals will treat them as monsters. With such a huge number, even some high-level professionals might not dare to mess with them. Stayed here for some time. When Bai Yi was about to fall asleep, the time for forced exit from the dungeon finally arrived. The figure swayed. When he opened his eyes again, Bai Yi had already appeared next to Blue Star in the entrance to the instance. At this moment, the recorder on the side was adjusting the data, with a strange expression on his face, and the corners of his mouth twitched subconsciously. When the staff saw this, they couldn't help but remind. What's wrong? I'm reading my grades. Why are you dazed? It's just. At this glance, the staff member also fell into a weird car. In line with the professional spirit, the most important thing is to keep this position. The recorder quickly came to his senses and recited. Bai Yi, level 27. Hidden SSS level profession, performed extremely well in the dungeon. No injuries at all. Excellent behavior. Unite your men. Overall score. Max. Pass. Pass. As he said that, the record keeper couldn't help but become more energetic, looked at the people beside him, and muttered, does this count as a pass? It didn't show the score. The staff member scolded her and said, that's not nonsense. Why doesn't it count as passed? Ignoring the discussion between the two people, Bai Yi walked straight forward. Just because his senior, Commissioner Knight, was waiting for him there. It took at least 8 hours, or even longer, but the committee member was still here waiting for him that night. I can only say that he is a man of great perseverance and patience. Patting Bai Yi on the shoulder, committee member Yi praised. Not bad, congratulations on becoming a new member of the Hengxia Alliance. I will be responsible for the process of your formal joining the alliance. I want to come. The entire H city will be proud of you in the coming years. Among the words of congratulations, Commissioner Yi did not mention the words, your parents will be proud of you, because when he was investigating the information, he found out the unfortunate experiences of Bai Yi's family in the past few years. After listening, Bai Yi showed a slight smile on his face and said, thank you. Between words, Bai Yi and other night committee members were discussing and boarding a private aircraft to go through the final joining procedures. Quote. At this time, not far from the copy, a man squatted in the corner, and he was also one of the professionals who took the test to join the Federation, but his result was that he failed. At this time, he seemed a little trembling and frightened. It's so scary. My future, my bright future. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Who can make those jackals howl? Who can beat them? It can't be fought. It can't be fought at all. It was also at this time that another professional's dungeon forced exit time arrived, and he appeared from the dungeon with a relaxed look on his face. The recorder slowly recited, Yi Liangchen, level 14, S-level profession, apostle of praise, average performance in the dungeon, no injuries, no bad behavior. Before the recorder could finish speaking, Yi Liangchen flipped his hair very confidently and glanced at the fearful elimination professionals not far away. He said with some disdain, Harm, what a test to join the alliance. It's too simple. I, Yi Liangchen, thought I was so amazing, but this is it. This is it. There won't be anyone who failed, right? It seemed that he felt ridiculed. The professional who was eliminated earlier changed his dull mood, stood up and turned around to confront, have you not encountered jackals from all directions? How dare you say this? Yi Liangchen said disdainfully, what bullshit jackals? I only encountered one in the whole copy. I fought hard and was killed in the end. No. Impossible. It's not fair. Why do I encounter so many? It's not fair. Recorder, I need an explanation. The frustrated professional turned his anger towards the record keeper. Why did he encounter jackals from all directions, but the guy in front of him who had just come out of the dungeon encountered one? See this scene. Although the recorder was puzzled, it didn't stop him from looking at these two people as if they were fools. I didn't encounter any monsters, so I fled the test timidly. I just shot one, and I didn't even hear the results, so I was smug and complacent. The record keeper had nothing to say about these two bad boys. Due to his own profession, the recorder recited Yi Liangchen's final score aloud. Yi Liangchen, level 14, S-level profession, apostle of praise, average performance in the dungeon, no injuries, no bad behavior. Due to abnormal copy status. Score, dispose of it. Upon hearing these words, Yi Liangchen's arrogant demeanor disappeared instantly. No, Yi Liangchen sat on his knees, holding his head with both hands, looking up at the sky and shouting full of grief and indignation. Just like the professional before, he fell into a depressed mood. So much so that when the follow-up staff added, participate in a retest and the location will be redetermined, they didn't listen to a word of it. At this time, after the unanimous decision of the reviewer in Yanjing, this achievement was included in the records of Longguo. It cannot be said to be a textbook record. It can only be said that, the best is to follow the past, and those who know what is coming may not be able to pursue it. It means the first person in history. It is impossible to predict whether there will be anyone who will surpass him in the future. This is a piece of news. It was also through Yanjing that it quickly spread to the ears of the entire Dragon Kingdom's senior officials. No matter whether they have important work at hand or not, everyone is applauded. This is a piece of news. It also attracted the upper-level bosses and triggered one slightly outrageous plan after another internally. No matter it is the entire Dragon Kingdom or the entire Blue Star. Bai Yi's performance undoubtedly showed his courage and absolute sweeping power. The senior management of Longguo has made a temporary decision to appoint Bai Yi as the national best new professional model for a period of 3 years. You can choose to refuse within 12 hours. When Bai Yi received this news in Committee Knight's private aircraft, he felt a little outrageous. Isn't it just to take a test to join the alliance? As for giving him the title of National Best Rookie Professional Model, you can choose to refuse within 12 hours. It was issued by the senior leaders of Longguo. Is he embarrassed to refuse? Hey, I have a headache. Rubbing his eyebrows, Bai Yi sighed helplessly, feeling that his ears were getting a little hot due to embarrassment. Don't be unhappy. In the past, he could be regarded as someone like Sun Fuga, the #1 scholar in the Renwu division. Bai Yi, this title is suddenly offered to you, do you want it? Although I really wanted to ask this question, I still didn't say it. By the way, you've been in the dungeon for so long and you haven't eaten yet. Several high-level officials from various fields have prepared a banquet and would like to invite you to attend. Before committee member Yi could continue, Bai Yi waved his hand and refused. No. I thank them. Commissioner Yi smiled for the first time in a long time and continued to fly the private aircraft. Then you go home and rest first. I will take you to sign the formalities later. Commissioner Yi said. Good. Bai Yi said helplessly. He was afraid that if he stayed here, he would be given 2 more titles, and some senior officials would invite him to dinner. Shortly after, the private aircraft Navigator 2 flew through the sunset, quickly skipped a large area of land, and returned to City H. The surrounding air flow increases. Navigator Type 2 descended as if quietly, without disturbing the surroundings at all. Bai Yi got out of the car and said hello to the night committee member. Then he rushed home. The first thing I did when I got home was to go to my room, throw myself on the bed and fall asleep. Never mind the big deal, let's talk about it after you wake up. Dong dong dong. Single quote. Bai Yi slowly opened his eyes, thinking that committee night was coming to pick him up, and opened the door directly. Just opened the door. A fat man with a somewhat fat figure and a face that looked like it was stained with oil came into view. Ha ha ha, little brother, I am the vice president of the head office of City H. I have brought you 2 boxes of good tea. Inside here. Bang. Single quote. Bai Yi slammed the door, ignored the person outside and knocked again, returned to the room and closed the door to ensure good sound insulation. In addition, Bai Yi was a little sleepy, so the voice could basically be ignored. Dong dong dong. Single quote. Bai Yi opens the door. Young hero, congratulations. My subordinate Blue Lake Group is responsible for land development, operation and management. I will see you today. Bang. Single quote. Bai Yi closed the door again and returned to the room. It's just that there was a little more annoyance on his face, making him look a little unhappy. Dong dong dong. Single quote. Bai Yi opened the door. This is express logistics. Without waiting for the other party to finish speaking, Bai Yi decisively repeated the process, closed the door and went back to the room without any sloppiness. This time, I finally slept for a while without being disturbed. Suddenly, when Bai Yi was sleeping soundly, there was a gentle knock on the door again. Dong dong dong. Single quote. When Bai Yi was asleep. Dong dong dong. Single quote. The door to the room was knocked again, causing a commotion. Aha. Single quote. Bai Yi opened his eyes suddenly, his eyes full of resentment, like an old ghost on the grave. Of course, there shouldn't be as much resentment as beating workers. Who else? I don't drink tea, drink, or smoke. I don't want to know anyone who is a bank manager, a real estate agent, or a courier person. Although I wanted to say this angrily, I still didn't. After all, when this kind of classic scene happens, there must be important people outside the door. For example, night committee. Therefore, Bai Yi left the room and opened the door. Just as Bai Yi thought, this kind of thing happened after all, and the person standing outside the door was the night committee member. Haha, those old men in their decades are extremely excited right now. Committee member Yi made a joke when they just met. The old man he was talking about was none other than the senior officials and important figures of the Dragon Kingdom. At this time, the sunset has long since dispersed, and the stars are about to fill the night sky. When Bai Yi went out and saw the scene at night, he couldn't help but feel that he had slept for a long time. Ah, single quote. Yawning, Bai Yi slowly followed Commissioner Knight to the private aircraft. During the trip, Commissioner Yi seemed to remember something and opened his mouth. By the way, that title comes with 100,000 gold coins, and there is also an awakening scroll with an upper limit of S-level skills. While driving the aircraft, Commissar Yi did not look back. He took out items from his storage backpack and threw them directly to Bai Yi in the back seat. Bai Yi caught it steadily and scanned it subconsciously. Item. Skill Awakening Scroll. Quality. Purple. Durability. Disposable. Level limit. Level 20. Introduction. Skills are randomly awakened after use. Because the current scroll quality is purple, the probability of awakening B-level skills is 68%, A-level skills are 20%, and S-level professional skills are all 6%. Bai Yi didn't think too much and used this scroll decisively. He will not keep any opportunity that can improve his strength. When using it, Bai Yi still has some expectations in his heart. Last time, Bai Yi awakened a professional skill that was far more valuable than S-level skills. The effect of the king's domain can be said to be very superior. Then this time, what will he awaken to? Professional skills. No, it's impossible no matter how you think about it. It's good luck to wake up once, but it's simply unreasonable to wake up twice in a row. Will S-level skills be awakened? Bai Yi is vaguely looking forward to it. If he awakens an S-level skill, he may not be sure his strength will rise to a higher level again. The item, Scroll of Skill Awakening, has been used. The awakening skill is A-level skill Summon Replacement. Bai Yi was silent for a few seconds. Sure enough, isn't it good luck every time? After comforting himself, Bai Yi clicked on the introduction of the new skill Summon Substitution. A-level skills Summon Replacement. Introduction. You can swap places with the summoned object, you can use it once every 12 hours, and you can accumulate 3 use opportunities. Can this be considered an A-level skill? Bai Yi was a little confused. It can only be used once every 12 hours. Although it can be used 3 times, the shortcomings are still too obvious. But think about it carefully. This skill is classified as A-level, which makes sense. Just imagine, for a summoning profession, he arranges a summoned object in a safe place in advance, and when he is in danger, he instantly replaces the 2 parties. Wouldn't it mean that he is instantly in a safe position? Thinking about it, Bai Yi nodded. Just as he was about to close the panel, something happened. Unexpected. The exploration panel began to flicker, and bits of garbled characters appeared from it. After a few seconds, the prompt pops up again. Due to the influence of your profession King of Shadows, the A-level skill, Summon Replacement, has been changed. A-level skill, Summon Replacement, right pointing arrow professional skill, Shadow Exchange. What? Bai Yi blinked. This happened suddenly. The good A-level skills suddenly turned into extremely rare professional skills. Although the professional skills are not powerful, the professional skills of his hidden profession, King of Shadows. There is nothing that is not against heaven. What's wrong? Are the awakened skills not what you want? Commissioner Yi asked. Quote. No, I'll look at it again. Bai Yi came back with a little excitement and carefully read the new skill introduction line by line. Specialty skill, Shadow Exchange. Introduction. Due to your authority as the King of Shadows, you can freely exchange positions with all shadow men, regardless of space and time restrictions, and there is no cooldown time. Ignore time and space restrictions. It hasn't cooled down yet. It's simply outrageous. Bai Yi sighed again, feeling excited about this skill. Thinking about it, Bai Yi couldn't help but open his dashboard and wanted to see the current data. Player. Bai Yi. Occupation. King of Shadows. Uniqueness. Level 27, 0, 112W. HP. 56,500, 56,500. Basic attack power. 1820. Spirit. 270. Equipment. Walker's Dagger, Poisoned Flying Thorn, Critical Damage Kunai, Ancient King Short Thorn. Shadow's Men. Natal Shadow Only, Black Barden, Shadow Giant, Shadow Null X 150, Shadow Stone Monster X 98. Skills. Shadow Extraction, Rank 1, Kingdom of Shadows, Rank 3, Natal Shadow, Rank 2, King's Domain, Full Level, Shadow Exchange, Full Level. Congratulations on reaching level 25, you will get an opportunity to upgrade your professional skills, which you can use. This last reminder surprised Bai Yi a little. The opportunity to upgrade actually appeared again at level 25. At that time, he was still extracting Black Barden and had no time to take care of these things. He probably ignored them. Now, just used it together. Let me see, the King's Domain and Shadow Exchange cannot be improved. I can only choose from the former. Shadow Extraction, Rank 2, select a dead creature, extract its shadow, and generate shadow minions. At Rank 2, the extraction time will be extended to 24 hours. The current extraction time is 60 minutes. Kingdom of Shadows, Rank 3, a different dimension where the shadow men hide in any shadow. They can gradually return to their peak state over time, further increasing the recovery speed compared to Rank 2. Natal Shadow, Rank 3, the shadow that accompanies the King of Shadows throughout his life. He can be reborn instantly after death and can use some of the King of Shadows skills. Rank 3 is 3 times the quality of the King of Shadows. You have to choose carefully. Seeing these choices, Bai Yi did not use it decisively, but thought about it for a moment. Shadow Extraction. The limit of shadow extraction can be extended to within 24 hours of the corpse's death. As the most commonly used professional skill, Bai Yi has not been upgraded even once. If it is upgraded to a certain level, it may usher in a qualitative change. Kingdom of Shadows. An indispensable professional skill that can carry the shadow minions with him at will. Bai Yi expects that after a few more upgrades, the quality will change. After all, from the very beginning it accommodates the shadow, to being able to restore the shadow's blood volume. After upgrading this time and upgrading 1 or 2 more times, new functions may appear. Natal Shadow. Bai Yi is currently one of the most powerful shadows. It has the property of immortality that no shadow can match. Although it is not outstanding now, if the shadow army collapses and Bai Yi is left alone, then Natal Shadow will be a complete and powerful combat force. 3 choices made it difficult for Bai Yi to make a decision. It's all investment. Bai Yi frowned. Although the first 2 have promising futures, Natal Shadow's improvement is undoubtedly the most direct. But, after much consideration, Bai Yi still gave this opportunity to upgrade in Kingdom of Shadows. Increasing the blood recovery speed of the shadows is quite impressive. Upgraded successfully. Kingdom of Shadows, Rank 2, Right Pointing Arrow. Kingdom of Shadows, Rank 3. Kingdom of Shadows, Rank 3, a different dimension where the shadow men hide in any shadow. They can gradually return to their peak state over time, further increasing the recovery speed compared to Rank 2. At this time, it was like hearing the cheers of the incomplete shadows in the Kingdom of Shadows. Bai Yi can clearly feel that these shadows, which partially dissipated from the body during the battle, will return to their complete state soon. Bai Yi smiled, closed his eyes and rested for a while. Not long after, the dim sky was suddenly filled with a not too dazzling white light. Bai Yi quietly opened his eyes. When he opened his eyes for the first time, Bai Yi didn't say the second half of the sentence. Only because, in the surrounding area covered by darkness, there is a supergiant floating building. There are ancient palaces and modern skyscrapers scattered all over it. In an instant, the lights were bright. At this time, Bai Yi knew where the light came from. Violently, while staring at the supergiant floating building, Bai Yi felt inexplicably in a trance, feeling like his mind was spinning. Vaguely, Bai Yi only saw it. Above the supergiant floating building, the lights converged vaguely, forming a huge monster. The monster has deer-like horns, a camel-like head, rabbit-like eyes, and a snake-like neck. It is clearly a mythical creature depicted in ancient times. Dragon. Buzz. Single quote. The somewhat ethereal dragon with vaguely focused light stared fiercely at Bai Yi. Bai Yi only felt the old motion sickness feeling, and her head was a little dizzy. But that's it. The darkness with a radius of thousands of miles around suddenly shook and swayed, as if responding to Bai Yi's spirit, and began to oppose it in a creepy way. The hundreds of millions of shadows around are changing with Bai Yi's spirit. The dragon collapsed violently. In a trance, everything disappeared. The dragon formed by the light disappeared, and the shadow nearby seemed to have not moved. At this time, Commissioner Yi said, "You have good qualifications." Most of the professionals who just came to the Hengxia Alliance were stunned by the dragon soul. Dragon soul? Bai Yi asked curiously. Thinking about it, this had something to do with the dragon-shaped shadow that they just looked at each other, so Bai Yi simply asked. Well, the first few years when the fantasy came. Many monsters rushed into Blue Star from various dungeons, which is the root of the Hengxia Alliance today. It has something to do with the Bo SS level creature, the Aokong Dragon King, one of the strongest monsters. These words directly gave Bai Yi some goosebumps. When the first fantasy came, he had heard about it. That day, 18 dungeons descended on Blue Star, from which thousands of monsters emerged, and countless unrivaled elites and Bo SS level creatures rushed into Blue Star. Humanity's thermal weapons and missiles cannot only target some weak monsters. Fortunately, after many years, professionals gradually awakened and began to counterattack. After nearly 100 years, the current situation of the Blue Star mankind was finally stabilized. This Aokong Dragon King. Bai Yi looked at the giant building in the distance and thought it was the base of the Hengxia Alliance. Commissioner Yi glanced at the Hengxia Alliance and said in a calm tone. It's nothing. Several ceilings in Long Kingdom took action together. Skinned the Dragon King Aokong, cut off the tendons, and removed the bones. The one who has contributed the most is the leader of the Hengxia Alliance. He combined these materials with several years of professional infrastructure construction to create the current Hengxia Alliance base. Bai Yi listened, took a breath of air, and made a contribution to global warming. Hiss. The Hengxia Alliance is so terrifying. The private aircraft Navigator 2 was very fast and soon entered the airport of the Hengxia Alliance. After lowering the aircraft, Bai Yi and the night committee member opened the door and walked out. At this time, a staff member came over and said respectfully, "Commissioner Knight." Committee member Yi nodded as a response, and then said, "Just record it briefly, I am going to bring new people into the alliance." Yes. After a brief explanation, Commissioner Yi put his hand on the Navigator 2 and randomly put it into the storage backpack. Such a large object would probably occupy at least one, or even multiple, spaces. But thinking about it, with the level of committee member Yi, he shouldn't care about this. At this time, Bai Yi felt the slightly colder air coming from high altitude and breathed wantonly. Is it the Hengxia Alliance? The location here is an airport in the Hengxia Alliance used to park aircraft, but even so, the area is really scary. The size of a small town is probably no bigger than this. Majestic, grand and hardcore. Bai Yi couldn't think of too many words to describe it, so he just felt it quietly. But after Bai Yi walked a certain distance, he felt resistance inexplicably. It's like trying to force two mutually repelling magnets together, unable to move forward without the strength. But Bai Yi knew that if he forced himself forward, these resistances would not be able to really stop him. At most, they would make him struggle all the time. This is Hengxia's outer blocking barrier. Your information has been recorded, and the barrier resistance will not take effect on you. The staff told Bai Yi. Looking at Bai Yi, committee member Yi couldn't help but think of himself when he first set foot in Hangxia. It seems that it is not as relaxed as Bai Yi showed. Shaking his head slightly, Commissioner Yi said, "Let's go, I'll take you to get to know Han Sha." Later, Bai Yi and committee member Yi set foot in the Hangxia Alliance together. Although the Hangxia Alliance is somewhat large, the most critical building appears to be somewhat compact. Not long after, Bai Yi, together with committee member Yi, arrived at the main hall of the Hangxia Alliance. Tall buildings. The luxurious but low-key decoration always reveals Hangxia's style. As soon as we entered the main hall, a staff member came to greet us. She has a good figure, wears a uniform of appropriate length, and her smile does not appear fake, but comes from the heart. "Hello you two, may I need any help? Transfer the authority of the committee members and report new people to join Hangxia." Correct. After the explanation, committee member Yi and Bai Yi were in the waiting area together. Just sitting on the sofa in the waiting area, Bai Yi felt that it fit her whole body instantly, which was more than 100 times more comfortable than her own sofa. Bai Yi just wants to sigh. It turns out that this is called a sofa. It didn't take long for the staff to come slowly, holding a box of items in their hands. In front of Bai Yi, these objects were introduced one by one. This is Han Sha's alliance costume. It has a certain initial defense. You can choose whether to wear it or not. This is a black identity card, which contains certain functions and has a built-in intelligence system. Please be sure to keep the identity black card and specific functions such as points inquiry, identity identification, and remote member chat. Quote. After listening to the introduction, Bai Yi put the black identity card away. Commissioner Yi nodded and left the main hall of the Hangxia Alliance. At the same time, committee member Yi stretched out his hand, pointed at various buildings in the distance, and said, "That's the ability training area over there. There are various buildings and equipment for training skills and abilities." Thinking about it, Bai Yi interrupted, "Can I still practice my skills?" It's not surprising that Bai Yi asked. He knew about ability training. When he first obtained Natal Shadow, he asked Shadow to exercise for a night, which directly improved his physical fitness a lot. This skill training makes Bai Yi a little puzzled. Can this thing be improved? Listening, a strange expression flashed across Commissioner Knight's face, but it disappeared in an instant, and he was only heard to say, "You are a hidden profession, and maybe acquiring skills will be the pinnacle. But those professionals are different. For example, the one-hit fireball spell is LV1. It consumes 30 mana to shoot a fireball. But if it is released hundreds or thousands of times, it will improve. For example, if the fireball skill is raised to level 6, it will cost 20 mana to launch 3 powerful fireballs." Listening, Bai Yi nodded. Oh, it turns out that this skill can really be improved. He hasn't upgraded his skills because when he acquired the skills, he was at full level. Also, his profession has no mana. Although the mage's skills cannot be used, the biggest negative effect of releasing other skills may only be the cooling time. But so far, he doesn't have a skill that has a cooldown time. Finally, I had a 12-hour cooldown summon replacement, but it was changed by the profession into Shadow Exchange with no cooldown. Is there anything he can do? What can he do? He is helpless. After saying that, Commissioner Yi changed his fingers and pointed to the other side, saying, "That's the team building hall over there, where you can post the requests for teammates you want to recruit. That's the trading floor over there. That's the Alliance member entrustment area. That's the residential area." As he spoke, Bai Yi couldn't help but interrupt and said, "Is there no such place as a restaurant? How to solve the problem of eating?" Committee member Yi paused and said slowly, "After binding the residents, you can order food. Just click on your identity card and we will know." After hearing this, Bai Yi took out his identity black card from his storage backpack. He took it in his hand and pressed it lightly. The built-in void projection maps out a small virtual display, about the size of a laptop screen, about 15 inches. After selecting the option of living in a house, the corresponding panel will pop up immediately. Small building. Can accommodate 1 to 2 people, with built-in bathroom, living room, bedroom, etc., 100 square meters, 100 points per month. Medium-sized building. can accommodate 3 to 4 people, with built-in bathroom, living room, viewing room, sauna, etc., 300 square meters, 500 points per month. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Independent villa. Can accommodate a team of 5 people, with built-in wine room, dual bathrooms, self-heating swimming pool, etc., 450 square meters, 2,000 points per month. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. After glancing at these options, Bai Yi was a little dazzled. After noticing that all purchases in the Hengxia Alliance depend on points, Bai Yi paid attention to his points. Account. Bai Yi. Current points. 100,000 points. 1, 10, 100. 100,000. Bai Yi raised his eyebrows, a little surprised. I just got the black identity card, why is there an extra 100,000 points in it? Seeing Bai Yi's incomprehensible look, committee member Yi explained. Since you just came to Hengxia and don't have any points to store, I told the superiors to exchange the 100,000 gold coins for your title award into points. By the way, gold coins and points are interchangeable, but each person can only exchange gold coins for up to 500 points per month. In the member trading area, there are people who have placed orders for a large number of gold coins in exchange for points for a long time. All in all, to a certain extent, points are more valuable than gold coins. Bai Yi. Unexpectedly, this senior leader of the Dragon Kingdom, this Night Committee member has a cold temperament on the surface but also has such a considerate side. Thank you, Commissioner Yi. Bai Yi thanked him. Polite. You can rent a house first. It's late at night now. It would be more appropriate to show you around tomorrow morning. Bai Yi nodded and decisively chose the independent villa with 2,000 points. Although it is expensive. But, as the aspiring young man who released his ideals on New Year's Eve said, no one can say no to self-heating swimming pools. As the saying goes, you pay for quality. Although this independent villa is a bit too expensive, after Bai Yi has 100,000 points, 2,000 points seems nothing in comparison. After briefly explaining to Bai Yi, committee member Yi left in a hurry, as if there was some backlog of important matters that finally broke out at this moment. Looking at the location guidance of the identity black card, Bai Yi arrived at the villa he rented. Don't tell me yet, it's really big. Although you can't see clearly at night, you can vaguely feel the luxurious feeling. Upon receiving the sensor, the door in front of the villa opened immediately. Without much thought, Bai Yi walked in directly and spent some time making arrangements. When he first set foot in the independent villa No. 302, Bai Yi had some feelings. The first time I entered here, Bai Yi does not regard this place as a temporary residence, but it feels more like a small entertainment city. In line with the decoration style of the Dragon Kingdom, this independent villa has a 3-story structure, with an open-air viewing platform on the top floor. And inside the villa, Bai Yi has only one feeling. Big. It was so big that it took Bai Yi a lot of time to walk through all the rooms in this independent villa and become familiar with them all. Can only say, as expected of an intelligent system, it recommended a place for the 5 members of the team to live. Although the interior decoration style is unified, it does not appear too monotonous. On the contrary, the more you look at it, the more comfortable it becomes. Being here, Bai Yi is like being in an ancient stone pavilion during the rainy season, while feeling the soothing sound of rain outside. Green plum wine is brewed in the pavilion, which gives it a unique flavor. Not bad, I like it, Bai Yi commented. After some rectification, Bai Yi took out the black identity card. This thing. It is similar in nature to the mobile phone in my memory, but it has many more functions and its technological level is far above it. This world is disturbed by uncertain factors such as copies and monsters, and neither the magnetic field nor the satellites are stable. But this black card is an exception. All in all, one can see from this black card how much thought the Hengxia Alliance put into it. This identity is on the black card. The Night Committee members' contact panel is recorded, so that each other can be notified directly if anything happens. This contact panel was added at the request of the Night Committee member when he left. Opening the black card, Bai Yi ordered some food. Special barbecue set meal for one person. Includes fat and lean x20, soy sauce tendon x10, beef tendon x5, fish tofu x2, vegetable skewers. Points required. 1 point. You can choose to order immediately or schedule delivery. After randomly choosing a barbecue set meal, Bai Yi lay in the movie theater and thought about life. The small goal of joining Hengxia has been achieved. Now that I think about it, it's still a bit magical. Next, set another small goal. Bai Yi murmured. Feeling everything unfolding recently seems a bit intoxicating, like a dream. Watching this movie, with Puss in Boots facing death on the screen, Bai Yi couldn't help but feel a little distracted. Suddenly, Bai Yi has set a new goal of his own. This goal seems a bit far away for him who has just reached level 30. Become one of the sealings of Dragon Kingdom first. This goal is very far away, so far away that it is unrealistic. But, isn't the goal of joining the Hansha Alliance not far away before the awakening profession begins? No matter how far away it is, isn't it now possible? And now the goal. The sealing of the Dragon Kingdom means the top group of professionals in the entire Dragon Kingdom, the most apex level beings who can touch the bottleneck of the world and cannot improve again. Each of them is a boss among bosses. Even among the 36 committee members of the Hengxia Alliance, figures like committee member Yi have never been included in the sealing. And the current leader of the Hengxia Alliance, the head of the entire alliance, is one of the people on the sealing. That is to say, if you want to achieve this goal, you must at least surpass the 36th committee and reach the stature of the alliance leader. Thinking about it, it's really exciting. Buzz. A sound interrupted Bai Yi's imagination. It's the black identity card that vibrates. At the same time, a line of dummy text is displayed above. Your meal, special barbecue set meal for one person, has been delivered to the entrance of the Independent Villa number 302, please check it. Bai Yi clicked on the black card and closed the prompt. Get up and walk slowly to the entrance. To be honest, before coming to this villa, Bai Yi didn't know what an entrance was. The entire villa has 3 doors. There is one outermost wall, one for the main body of the villa, and one for actually entering the villa. Bai Yi thought to himself as he walked out of the door and stepped into the entrance hall. And this entrance, it means entering the 2 gates, but not actually entering the transition area in the villa. Hey, I can only say that I would never dream of such a luxurious structure. Shaking his head, Bai Yi took the meal, but did not see any takeaway staff. Thinking about it, the delivery staff should also be members of the Hengxia Alliance, but their movement skills were too fast to catch even a trace. Had a meal. Bai Yi straightened up and then fell into a deep sleep. The time after sleep is fleeting. Early in the morning. Bai Yi stretched his body and woke up in an instant. Well, Commissioner Knight didn't contact me. Taking out the black card, Bai Yi opened the contact panel, but it only showed. Commissioner Knight. I have something I can't get away from, so I probably can't take you with me in the morning. Night Committee member. I have arranged for someone to pick you up. When you wake up, go shopping by yourself. You will meet the person I arranged at noon 4:24 a.m. Be concise and to the point. It was just too simple, which made Bai Yi read it again before he understood the meaning. It seems that even a person like Commissioner Knight has not reached the point where he can do whatever he wants. Bai Yi took a look and washed up before going out. The Hengxia Alliance was so big that he didn't know what to do for a while. After shopping for a while, sitting casually on a bench in a public square, I quietly looked up at the sky, looking at the blue sky and white clouds that seemed to be within reach. Fortunately, he didn't have to wait long before someone came. It was a young man about 1.6 meters tall with black hair and black eyes. He walked towards this side silently without saying a word. But what makes people feel a little awkward is that this young man has a mushroom head, which looks a little funny. Hello, first time meeting you. The mushroom-headed boy came to Bai Yi and spoke in a calm tone. Acquaintances like to call me passerby, and you can do the same. I, appointed by Committee Knight, will introduce relevant matters to you. Mushroom 2's tone was calm, a little too calm, like reciting a text, as if there was no emotion. Oh, hello. Bai Yi nodded in response. Next, passers-by took Bai Yi and walked in this Hengxia Alliance for a long time. This place is very big. Even after walking around for several hours and giving introductions for several hours, I still feel like I have just stepped into a small part of the Hengxia Alliance. After explanations from passers-by, Bai Yi also became more familiar with the Hengxia Alliance, including usual task delegation. and what the members of the Hengxia Alliance usually do, as well as the big names in the Hengxia Alliance, recent interesting activities, etc. Only then did Bai Yi understand. There are about 4,000 members recruited from all over the country every year, all of whom are the best of the best. But the probability of passing is only about 17%. That's about 680 people. Even so, but with new members joining every year, this huge Hengxia alliance does not seem empty. As they walked and introduced each other, Bai Yi became acquainted with the passers-by. Suddenly, the front was covered by 5 huge shadows. "Hey, isn't this a passerby? We have been looking for you for a long time." Bai Yi looked up and saw that these people's muscles were all tangled, looking like ferocious predators. As the 5 people spoke, they all showed ferocious smiles, looking exactly like several wanted criminals on the list. Looking at it, Bai Yi had an inexplicable premonition. Oh no, this development is a bit strangely familiar. Single quote. Wait a minute, these people won't come to make trouble, and passers-by will be bullied, then I will come to rescue them. Single quote. This plot is too cliché. This is not how novels are written anymore. Bai Yi looked calm on the outside, but started to complain on the inside. How, you think if you hide, we won't be able to find you? One of the strong men smiled ferociously and walked slowly towards this side. The strong man took a step forward. The 4 strong men around him also followed, slowly advancing towards this side. The expressions of the passers-by changed. Just as they were about to say something, they saw the strong man among them smiling, quickening his pace, and walking over quickly. At this time, the shadow under Bai Yi's body squirmed slowly, and as soon as Bai Yi gave the order, he would launch an offensive as fast as thunder. But the next moment, something Bai Yi didn't expect happened. The strong man waved his hand, and an additional piece of equipment appeared out of thin air. It is a bright yellow giant hammer, more than 6 feet long, with a gleaming brilliance. It is afraid that it can move a lot of battles with just one swing. Immediately afterwards, the strong man held a giant hammer, stepped forward, swung the hammer directly in front of passers-by, and said loudly, "Brother, this is the Golden War hammer I replaced. I no longer need it. I give it to you." Seeing this sudden scene, Bai Yi couldn't help but change his expression. But it's not over yet. Another strong man came forward, holding a breastplate, and said, "I have upgraded my level again and got new equipment. There is no need for this silver scale breastplate that reduces physical damage by 15%. Just take it." These strong men all came forward with ferocious smiles on their faces, making the scene a bit strange. 5 muscular men with a height of 1.9 meters were holding things. If you don't accept it, you feel like you're not giving them face. See this scene. Bai Yi looked strange. The restless shadow beneath him slowly returned to calm. Afterwards, the passerby reluctantly accepted the equipment and gave him a few words of advice. Watch Bai Yi stare at the 5 strong men. The passerby shook his head helplessly and explained, "Just for fun. These are the 5 Xiaohao brothers. I call them Qingda, Qing 2, Qing 3, Qing 4, and Qing 5. They looked mean, but I won't bully others." Bai Yi's mouth twitched. He really thought so. However, this bully has become the Dad Ellen who keeps giving away things. See Bai Yi's expression. A passerby explained. "These 5 are fierce, born that way. When they first entered Hengxia, I took them to level up. Now their level has improved by leaps and bounds, and they are much higher than me." The passerby's eyes looked dull, as if he had remembered something, and continued. "Correct. This is the newcomer that Commissioner Knight is optimistic about. My name is Bai Yi, please meet me." The passers-by stared at each other with big round eyes and introduced the 2 parties in a tone without much emotion. Seeing what the passerby said, the 5 strong men looked at each other and said at the same time as if they had a tacit understanding, "Hello, Brother Bai." The 5 strong men bowed one after another with respectful expressions on their faces. This name, Bai Yi felt a little strange. Quote. The passerby was speechless and muttered, "They are 16 this year." Listening, Bai Yi's eyes twitched. Is this 16? Could this be 16 years old? Forget it, this world is too wonderful, and dragons are common monsters. In comparison, someone who is 16 years old, 1.9 meters tall, and muscular seems more reasonable. Next, The five brothers became excited when they heard that the passerby was assigned by the night committee to introduce Bai Yi to Han Sha. Although passers-by dissuaded him, he still followed. In desperation, passers-by asked for Bai Yi's opinion, and then took the five brothers with them. Brother Bai, do you want to level up? A few of us recently went to the level 42 dungeon titled Disaster to gain experience, shall we go together? Yes, Brother Bai, you have just joined Hengxia, but if you can be favored by committee member Yi, you must be outstanding. We believe you will not hold back. Yes, I'll take you with me to level up. Big guys like Commissar Knight can pay more attention to us. These five brothers have straightforward personalities and do not shy away from anything. Bai Yi also understands a little bit about each other after talking to each other. At this time, the passerby also nodded and said in an emotionless tone, "That's fine." I also gave an overview of Han Sha's affairs. I recommend you to gain experience with them next. Listen, Bai Yi thought about it. It would be okay to follow these five brothers to that level 42 dungeon. But he has been playing the dungeon by himself from beginning to end, and he has never formed a team with anyone else. But when you think about being able to kill level 42 monsters frequently, you will definitely gain a lot of experience. After thinking for a moment, Bai Yi made a decision. Okay, count me in. Upon hearing this decision, the five brothers cheered, okay. The shape and color of joy should be said to be this kind of person. Next, I went to the member trading area and bought some necessary items, such as food, water and other items. Then I booked an aircraft on the black card to go to the dungeon titled Disaster. Not everyone has a personal aircraft like Commissioner Knight's. Most of the time, members of the Hengxia Alliance will book aircraft together with many people. This kind of aircraft is relatively large and is controlled by an intelligent system. The flight route and planning are preloaded internally. It can also fly or make a sudden landing in the event of an emergency. Not long after, the aircraft, like a steel bus, landed at the airport, detected the black card and opened the door on its own. After boarding the aircraft, several people agreed to explore each other. The five brothers and passers-by all knew the truth and there was no need to launch an investigation, so they set their sights on Bai Yi. Several people were curious and launched an investigation into Bai Yi. After seeing the panel, they were all stunned. Their faces were filled with bewildered surprise. Player: Bai Yi. Occupation: King of Shadows. Uniqueness: Level 27. HP: 56,500, 56,500. Basic attack power: 1820. Closing square bracket. Skill: Ah, oh my god. What kind of magical data is this? Is this the blood volume that level 27 can have? That's awesome. You don't even have that much blood, right? How much blood did I have when I was at level 27? It seemed, only over 20,000. Less than half of Brother Bai's. Also, could this skill be a level abase? Otherwise, why would it hide automatically? All of a sudden, the five brothers exclaimed one after another. But at the same time, while being probed, Bai Yi was also probing them, showing a strange expression again. Player: Xiaohao Hongda, Qing University. Occupation: Ghost Walker. Level 45. HP: 95,220, 95,220. Basic attack power: Closing square bracket. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Player: Xiaohao Hongwei, Qing Occupation: Knighted. Level 45. HP: 87,320, 87,320. Basic attack power: Closing square bracket. Player: Xiaohao Hongqiu, Qingsun. Occupation: Will Officer. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Player: Xiaohao Honghao, Qing 4. Occupation: Holy Light Archpriest. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Player: Xiaohao Hongsha, Qingwu. Occupation: Incendiary Explosivesman. Each of these five brothers' professional names feels very powerful, and I'm afraid they are all around S level. Looking at the passers-by, Bai Yi felt a lot more relaxed. This is pretty normal. Player: Mob Passenger. Occupation: Psychic Master. Level 32. HP: 45,880, 45,880. Basic attack power: 2120. Closing square bracket. But, since you are 16 years old, how did you become a professional? How did you enter the Hanxia Alliance? The answer is almost universally known in the Hanxia Alliance. There are 36 members of the Hanxia Alliance, and one of them is a middle-aged man named Xiaohaoking, who is the father of these 5 brothers. The 5 Xiaohao brothers had already received independent awakening as early as the age of 8. There was no need to wait until the age of 18 to accept the country's free full-scale job transfer. Coupled with their father's status as a committee member, these few have grown up with brushing experience. Until the day he joined the Hanxia Alliance, he was only 14 years old and his level exceeded level 20. But now, his level is even more terrifying, far beyond that of his peers. All we can say is that this is the talent and hard work of 2 generations. Seeing the profession, Bai Yi knew the general positioning. Qing Da and Qing Ruo are the warriors in the front row, Qing San is the long-range fighter, and Qing For and Qing Wu are the types that continue to assist in combat from the rear. As for passers-by, I guess they are the kind of telepathic profession. After getting to know each other, a few people roughly discuss the deployment. In fact, these 5 brothers often kill monsters in this dungeon. They are so familiar that they can no longer be familiar with them, and they can face them easily. Otherwise, how can we call it leveling up, or gaining experience? Tell me, what are Brother Bai's profession and skills? I guess I'm controlling my own shadow like I summon a ghost. No, since it's all related to shadows, why can't it be about immobilizing other people's shadows and making them unable to move? You guys are too outrageous. Quote. Seeing Bai Yi, the only profession with a hidden nature, the 5 brothers couldn't hide their curiosity, and they didn't hold back for long before asking. Brother Bai, we are still curious. What type of profession is yours, King of Shadows? We have made many assumptions, but none of them are reasonable. It's okay if you don't want to say it. After all, it's popular to hold back. Hearing this, Bai Yi waved his hand. He is not someone who hides things. If he has the ability, he will speak out instead of waiting until the critical moment to reveal it. That would not only make others uncomfortable, but also make him feel even more uncomfortable. To put it simply, it is. Bai Yi explained and made a few people understand. I see. So, isn't it better than the SS-level hidden profession, necromancer? Yes, the necromancer only controls corpses. Not only is his ability not as good as before, but he will also rot quickly. Moreover, every time he controls more bones, he will consume more mana. I thought the necromancer was powerful enough. But I never thought, Brother Bai, your profession is much better than that of the necromancer. Bai Yi smiled and couldn't help but chat for a while after listening to the boasts of several people. Not long after, as time passed, the aircraft finally reached its destination. As usual, outside the copy, official buildings were built. But it is worth noting that the average level of the personnel stationed here is very high, not at all the low level of level 10 or level 20 like those stationed in Steel Jungle and Yudong Stone Ridge. After completing the procedures to enter the copy, Qingda paid a certain amount of gold coins. Bai Yi came to the bulletin board of the official building and read the introduction of the copy. Copy. Title Disaster. Level. LV.40 LV.50. Introduction. The small world of islands is full of various monsters wandering in the ocean, but this does not mean that they will be weak when they come ashore, so please be careful. After reading, several people slowly stepped into the copy and went to the other small world in the blink of an eye. In the copy world. Aha. Single quote. Aha. Single quote. Shua. When I opened my eyes again, several more figures appeared around Bai Yi. It was the 5 brothers and passers-by. This is the first time Bai Yi has teamed up with others, and the feeling is a little hard to describe. In the past, I was used to single machine horizontal pushing. Now suddenly there are a few more teammates around me, but I'm really not used to it. Crash. Single quote. The sound of waves crashing on the beach was heard in his ears, and then Bai Yi had the opportunity to take a closer look at the scenery in the dungeon. Each copy is a small world. These wonderful scenery are also very different. The metal jungle of Steel Jungle and the empty mountains of Yudong Stone Ridge are all unique. And here, it is a stretch of beach with the waves constantly crashing ashore. The salty sea breeze rushes into the nose. Although it smells very good, it always makes people feel a little comfortable. It's Naga's strong seafood smell again. I smelled it when I first arrived. Don't mention it, I've already gotten used to it after smelling it so many times. Hey, when can we get a copy of High Level? I'm almost going to vomit after reading this copy. Okay, who asked the 5 of us to form a team, and the team experience will be halved. If we don't form a team, we won't even be able to beat this book. That's it, stop being poor and be serious. The 5 brothers started talking non-stop again, arguing one by one. While the 5 brothers were arguing, the passerby's eyes seemed to burst into 2 beams of light, and then he stretched out his hand and grabbed it in the air. Unobservable power of thought was exerted. Aha! Single quote. A slender fish-shaped monster with 3/3 of its face like a human, dark green torso and tail, was lifted out of the sea out of thin air. At this time, the 5 brothers stopped arguing and attacked him directly. For a while, ghost avatars, swords, bullets, holy light, and Molotov cocktails all attacked the monster. Bai Yi only explored it once before his death. Monster. Naga Siren. Level 42. HP, 71,630, 71,630. Comprehensive attack power, 2,600. Skills, A level, Siren's Song, B+ level, Mirror Image, B level, Riptide, Entrapment. Just a little longer. The Naga Siren that just appeared was quickly drained of its health without even releasing a single skill. At this time, a prompt came from the professional system. Team up to kill the monster, Naga Siren. The experience gained is reduced to 1/7, experience plus 16,980. Drops to be picked up, Tidal Fish Scales X6, Siren Eyes X2. No one has collected this dropped item. Chingda among the 5 brothers said, this thing can only be exchanged for gold coins, so it is of no use to us. Just take what you need, don't worry so much. If there is something that everyone needs, let's judge the ownership by guessing it. Although it was unreasonable, Bai Yi finally acquiesced to the rules between them. After glancing at the materials, Bai Yi was not interested. What he cares about, it's the corpse of the Naga Siren. Next moment, professional skill, shadow extraction is activated. Shadows surged under the body of the Naga Siren, and soon a shadow subordinate formed. Unlike the Naga Siren's tail, the Shadow Naga's tail is more like a snake, which is conducive to movement on land and water. See here, the 5 brothers and the passers-by were all shocked. Is this the skill of King of Shadows? Hiss, awesome. By the way, is there a limit to this? Will it be as burdensome as the Necromancer? What stupid question are you asking? How can I not feel burdened? I'll leave it at that. If I don't feel burdened, I'll just take 3 swigs of sea water. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.